Their work will be remembered as one of the greatest moments of this planet.
Mr. Scout. I know you're still weighing whether to return to Lumen. But the mark I've come to know is happy.
Hello, is anyone there? Is the board on? It's Marquez from Macro...
What you all did was one of the most painful moments in the history of this company.
What the hell?
But the four of you have become known as the face of Severance reform.
Okay, so we're not in trouble?
I don't think so. Milchick said we're famous.
All of us equally, or one of us is like the star?
Now if you feel that you can't go on.
So what the hell did you guys see up there?
It's not our world up there.
And your life is filled with much confusion.
My Audi's wife died a few years ago. Except the woman is Miss Casey.
So what are you gonna do?
I gotta get her out of here.
Mark, your Annie said she's alive.
This is obscene.
I just want to be sure.
And your world around is coming down.
Why did you do this? What is this all about?
Do you know something about Gemma?
Mark, there'll be no honeymoon ending for you.
Their work will be remembered as one of the greatest moments of this planet.
You don't value them. You fear them. We fear no one.
I'm tightening the leash.
If we let this happen to Miss Casey, who's gonna step up when it happens to us?
Now. Goodbye, Marquez.
Wait!
My name is Miss Huang. It's my first day here as deputy manager. Mark W.
Why are you a child?
Because of when I was born.
And welcome all to another special edition of Sevi Saturday, the finale edition of Sevi Saturday to be precise. And tonight we are going to be diving into all things pertaining to the Severance Season 2 finale, and of course, a look ahead as to what to expect in Season 3. And we want to hear from you guys in the chat, of course. What are some of your Season 3 predictions? Where do you think this crazy story is going to take us next? After all of this insanity that we have been given in Season 2, where do you see Season 3 going? Where do you see some of our characters' storylines going? And hopefully, will they pull Rickon off the bench for Season 3 and give him some frickin' screen time? Welcome one, welcome all. So glad to have everybody here tonight. And welcome, PM. So glad to have you as well. Have you had any more time to watch the finale again, or reflect on it a little bit more? And where are you standing now with it, you think?
Well, I feel like I'm still in the same place. So I still feel the same about it. And I didn't get to watch it again, but I did listen to the podcast again for like a third time.
Nice.
So.
Nice. That's good. That's good. Yeah, I had a chance to watch the Inside the Episode and the Behind the Scenes episode, little featurettes that they upload. And it does give you some interesting insights to some of the other scenes and to how some scenes kind of came together and such. But yeah, I mean, I think we touched on it a little bit yesterday, but the biggest thing I was not shocked by, but one of the most interesting things I heard was when they were talking about how we almost got a cliffhanger for the Season 2 finale. It was almost going to be a big cliffhanger. Originally, they weren't going to show us who Mark chose Gemma or Helly. They were just going to leave it with Mark standing between them in that hallway and just end the season there on a dramatic high note. But for some reason, I guess Ben Stiller said he felt like he didn't want to give people a massive cliffhanger 2 seasons in a row. So he figured, let's give them the satisfaction of seeing who Mark chooses and then end the season. So that was an interesting kind of thing to hear, that they were almost planning to go down the cliffhanger route again.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they didn't do that, because there has been mixed reactions to the finale.
Yeah.
From the live streams that we've done, the Sevis are divided. There are Sevis who really loved the finale. They loved the choice that Mark made and how they ended the season. And then there's others that don't feel satisfied. They don't feel like we got enough resolution. There's still so many questions. So I am glad that they didn't choose to go that route. Otherwise, I think that number would have grown.
That's a good point. That is a good point, because like you said, there has been a bit of a mixed reaction to the finale. We've gotten some people that absolutely love it, loved every second of it. And then you do have some fans that felt like it was a little underwhelming, that maybe they didn't get what they were hoping for out of the finale. And me, I feel like I'm kind of a mix of both, where I definitely got a lot of what I was looking for in the finale. But yeah, there were some things that I think could have been handled a little bit differently, maybe a little bit better. And it's okay to critique things like that. That's why we do these shows, to dive into what we like and what we don't like, of course. But yeah, I have noticed the same sentiment you have. Some people are loving it. Some people are not loving it so much. And that's been an interesting reaction. It's been an interesting reaction to see how people have reacted to season 2 as a whole. Because for the most part, I've enjoyed season 2. I thought season 2 has been a phenomenal season. But I have seen that also come up a lot in some of the comment sections and on some of our videos and other places in social media, of people just not liking season 2, feeling like season 2 didn't live up to season 1. And that's totally cool if that's your perspective on it. Totally fine. Of course, everybody's welcome to like it or not like it. But that's one thing I found interesting is, the season has had a pretty good reception for most of it throughout season 2. But now that the finale's here, we're starting to see some of those sentiments echoed a little bit, where some people are happy, some people aren't. And again, that's the nature of the fandom at the end of the day. And shows have a lot of weight on their shoulders in terms of trying to please the most amount of people as possible, but always knowing that you're never going to be able to please everybody. But I think that you can kind of just do the best you can in those circumstances. But for me, again, I'm kind of a mix of both. I loved a good portion of the finale, but there were some small parts that I wasn't a huge fan of.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this channel, that everybody's opinion is valid. I love hearing what the Sevi say regarding, things like the Audi versus Innie, why anybody would choose the Audi, right? They always give me no perspective. And I think that, like Kiwi said, totally valid. We didn't get that many answers. I think when we were thinking about Cold Harbor, right?
Yes.
Everybody was like waiting, like, what is it? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to say that I don't like it, because I feel like I still need to process what Cold Harbor was.
Yes. And that's the thing. That is one thing I've seen a lot of people saying. They felt a little underwhelmed with the reveal of what Cold Harbor was. I think people were expecting it. I think a lot of people were predicting some of the aspects of Cold Harbor, even like you and I did. Like we were kind of pretty close with most of our predictions on what Cold Harbor really was and what MDR was really doing with this data, refining Gemma's brain. So we were definitely right there. So I think a lot of people are expecting it to have a bigger effect. Why are they doing this? What are they using this for? It seems like some people were expecting a much bigger reveal. And I can understand that, considering how much they built up this Cold Harbor. Like, they really hyped up Cold Harbor. And yeah, the reveal wasn't, I feel like the reveal didn't quite lead up to the hype. It was still a good reveal. Again, it's still interesting to see where they're going to go from here, and everything that Gemma went through. Now that Mark knows that he has had a hand in severing Gemma 24, 25 different times, he's going to have to process and deal with that in season 3. But yeah, I definitely understand the sentiment where people feel like the Cold Harbor reveal wasn't as big as they hoped for, considering how much hype was behind it.
Yeah, and the reason why I don't want to say or commit to saying that I don't like it is because I
Mhm.
do believe that there is symbolism there.
Yeah.
The name Cold Harbor, there is things that we could dive into deeply, and
Mhm.
it all makes sense. So I don't want to say that I don't like it or that it was a letdown, but I can see
Yes.
why people wouldn't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm at. Like, again, I'm a mix of both myself personally. Again, I did enjoy. I enjoyed more of the finale than I didn't enjoy. There really wasn't any parts that I like hated or anything like that. There was just a few small things that I thought maybe could have been a little bit, different. But overall, I did really enjoy the episode. This episode had one of my favorite sequences that I've ever seen in Severance to date, and that is the Marks communicating with each other. It was just such a brilliant scene to see Mark and Mark kind of just go back and forth the way they were. I always wondered what would a conversation between Innie and Audi Mark look like. And it's interesting to hear Dan Erickson talk about that very sentiment and say, this is something that he has been planning from the very beginning. He's always wanted to have this scene where Mark and Mark finally communicate directly in real time. And again, it was such a simple but brilliant sequence, and that was the highlight of the episode for me. Definitely, it was so riveting. I remember somebody in the chat yesterday said, I could have watched a whole episode or a whole hour of just them going back and forth. And I 100% agree. I could literally watch an entire episode of just Mark going back and forth. It was that good. It was that riveting. It was that kind of glued to your seat, eyes glued to the screen feeling that I had. So yeah, no, again, the finale was amazing for the most part. There was just some small parts that didn't really land fully for me, like the marching band. Like I get what they were going for, and it's always fun to watch Milchick do his thing. I love when Milchick kind of gets a chance to kind of get up there and do his thing and dance a little bit. And he always, he always nails those scenes. He always does great. But I guess it just didn't land as good for me compared to the season one Defiant Jazz. And I know that this was their kind of version of doing another kind of Defiant Jazz kind of scene, but they didn't want it to be too similar to Defiant Jazz, so they didn't just have Milchick dancing again. That's why they brought the band into it. They wanted it to be a little different, but have that same feel. And it did have a similar feel with the lights and the band and the chaos, all the chaos around them. And one scene that I actually thought was even kind of funny when I was watching the band scene is you see the look on Mark and Helly's face when the band like first shows up. They're in there, they're kind of staring, they're looking all around each other, and they look absolutely terrified. They look like they're being surrounded by an army, like an invading army is surrounding them. They look so terrified and then I stopped to think about it. I thought, well, yeah, of course they're terrified. They've never seen anything like this. They might have heard of the idea of a marching band, but they've never seen it. They've never heard it up close. And someone mentioned in the chat last night, which was something that's also very true. A marching band like this playing in these close quarters would absolutely sound horrific. It would kill your ears. Like the sound would be so loud as it's bouncing off of these walls super close to you. And I took a moment to kind of think of that. And I'm like, oh yeah, wow, that actually would kind of maybe be a problem. Like hearing this marching band in this very small enclosed space would be very jarring, especially for an Innie who's never experienced anything like this. So I did kind of enjoy this, just seeing the look on Mark and Helly's face, where it reminded me of Jon Snow and Davos in the Battle of the Bastards when they're being surrounded by Ramsay's army. They're just surrounded on all sides and they're looking around like, oh shit, we're about to get slaughtered. That's the kind of vibe I got from Mark here in the scene. Like he's looking around super scared, like he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah, I love the marching band. So I'm of the other group. I loved it. I love a marching band. I love step dancing. And so Ben Stiller said that one of his favorite movies is the one where it's like step to something and it's just marching bands by Nick Cannon.
Oh yes, the drumline.
That
That's it.
drum line,
Drumline.
right?
It did
So
have
he
that
said
feel.
that that's Yeah, he said that's one of his favorite movies. And so, because he's such a fan of that, he wanted to include a marching band. So, when you put that together, it's like, okay, I see it, drumline. It totally makes sense. And I love a marching band. I love the outfits, I love the flair, the pizzazz, the white gloves, the moves, right? I thought it was really cool. So, I mean, for me, it might even be one of my second favorite. I think it's my second favorite scene.
Ooh, nice. Second favorite scene of the finale. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Well, I guess I would love to ask you and everybody in the chat, now that we have seen both versions, which version do you guys like better? UPM and you guys in the chat. Do you like the season 1 Defiant Jazz sequence better, or do you like this sequence a little bit better? Because, I mean, if you like a marching band, I could totally understand why some people might prefer this to season 1 even. What about you? What do you think? Do you like the season 1 Defiant Jazz sequence they did, or do you like this musical number better? And what about you guys in the chat as well? Season 1 Defiant Jazz or season 2 Marching Band? Which one did you prefer?
Well, I think that Sevis, before you vote, remember when we think Defiant Jazz, like because we have seen Jeremy's edit to that really cool song, in my mind, that's how Defiant Jazz went. So of course, Defiant Jazz is like way better with the song that you chose. But that was not the song that was in the actual series. It was different. And when I went back and looked at it, it's not as good, right? I think it has to be the
Yeah.
marching band. I love the like here he brings the rain. I forget. I'm not a good Sevi. I don't know the Kier anthem, but I really love the way that they were doing the Kier anthem.
Yeah, it was an interesting twist on the Kier anthem. That was pretty cool to see. I mean, we hear, Cobel sing it in season 1, like super, like I love Cobel, but she cannot carry a tune in a 10-cent bucket. She just doesn't have it. Not everybody has it, unfortunately. But yeah, it's, and yeah, I enjoyed Milchick, good or bad. He's so funny. And that's kind of where I'm at too, Kiwi. Like, even when Milchick's being kind of his villainous self, I can't help but enjoy every single scene that Trammell Tillman is in. I just feel like he's created such an interesting character here where, yes, I mean, he's done some bad things and you can definitely characterize him as a villain if you wanted to. But I don't know, something about his character, something about his on-screen presence. He's got a very, commanding presence on screen, which is very kind of infectious to look at, to watch. And yeah, it's always fun seeing him up there doing his thing. So whether he's in the marching band or Defiant Jazz, it's always fun watching Milchick perform. And I get the feeling Trammell Tillman probably has a blast doing these kinds of scenes, considering like how well they end up coming out. Because he does, he looks great every time he's whether he's dancing or directing the band. He's always having a blast, and he's always looking very good when he's doing it. But yeah, I wondered, which one is favored among the chat, among you guys. Was it the season 1 Defiant Jazz, or did you like the marching band? Again, the marching band, if you're a marching band kind of person, I could definitely see you liking the marching band a little bit better. And you bring up a really good point, PM. Every time I think of the Defiant Jazz, I think of the song that I put an edit to. And that song is way better than the song that's actually playing during the Defiant Jazz. Because I did recently go back and had to pull a clip out of the Defiant Jazz scene for a video. And I heard the jazz in the background, and I'm like, oh my God, this is like the worst music for this kind of dance. Like, this is like, it doesn't kind of fit that well. So as iconic as it is, I do agree with you there. I feel like I spoiled myself by putting that song behind the Defiant Jazz scene and made it a little bit better for me. So that's a very good point. We got Kiwi Skirt says season 1, Defiant Jazz. We got another vote for Defiant Jazz. I like them both for different reasons, and that's awesome. That's good too. I mean, if you like them both the same, then that's totally fine. Yeah, apples and oranges. That's totally cool. Absolutely. We've got another one for Defiant Jazz, says Xavier Anderson. Awesome. Defiant Jazz versus Aggressive Marching Band, says Ruby. That's pretty much what you have to choose from. Defiant Jazz or Aggressive Marching Band. Susan likes them equally. Okay, hey, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like them both the same, that is totally cool. So yeah, it seems like we got people that like both. That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. I prefer season one version. Defiant Jazz has so much tension and builds that builds before Dylan bites him. It's a perfect scene. Well, I mean, the Dylan biting him, that's a good point, Toothless Pace, because yeah, the scene does kind of have that tense buildup where you see Mark and Milchick and Irving, and they're all dancing, having fun. And then you look back and you see Dylan, and he's just stone cold sober, sitting at his desk, just stewing. All he can think about is his son at that point. That's right after he finds out that he has a family on the outside. And all he wants to know is his son's name, is to learn about his family. And Milchick will not give him this. So he just, you see him sitting there stewing. And then when Milchick comes up to him and is like dancing behind him at his computer terminal, like it's just so super hilarious. It's super kind of crazy in a sense. But yeah, you do get that sense of it does feel like a bit of a tension that is building up until Dylan just explodes.
Okay, so great point, Toothless Face. I might even change my mind. But also, wait a minute, because we also had aggression with the marching band. So while he didn't get bit, the marching band did, kind of start attacking him. Well, Hallie, right, hits him with the tuba, is it? So
Yeah.
so in both of the dance scenes, he's just trying to dance, and he was assaulted. He was, um, bit in one of them, and with the other one, he was locked in the bathroom and hit with a tuba. So we have aggression in both. There's tension that builds. So I don't know that we can go totally defiant Jazz, because there is tension in the marching band.
Definitely. That's actually a really good point. There is an equal amount of tension. You're absolutely, maybe even more so considering the stakes that's going on in season 2 compared to season 1, where the stakes weren't super high during the Defiant Jazz scene, but the stakes are super high in this. This is like the climactic episode, the climactic moment that the whole season was building towards. So yeah, you do have a good point that the tension was just as thick, if not even thicker, maybe here with the marching band sequence, because yeah, we see Helly kind of, doing her part, running in, sneaking in, stealing Milchick's freaking radio, and locking him in the bathroom, which was an ingenious plan to kind of sideline Milchick for a little bit. Because I have to imagine, and I'm glad they thought of this ahead of time, because I have to imagine when they were coming into this plan, they had to know that Milchick was going to be a massive problem. He was probably going to be their biggest obstacle in terms of stopping them just roaming around the severed floor and doing what they needed to do. Because that's one thing I've always noticed. The severed floor, it doesn't really have a whole lot of security. Like it had Granger in season 1. He was kind of the head of security, but he didn't have like security officers or guards under him. It was kind of just him. And now that he's gone and we haven't seen him get replaced yet, and we don't see guards posted all over the place, that it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of security on the severed floor. But Milchick is always going to be there to put a stop to things. Like case in point, him being the only one that stops, Miss Casey / Gemma from escaping in her episode when she finally makes it to the elevator. If Milchick doesn't get there in time, she maybe escapes. So it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot of security on the severed floor, but Milchick is always going to be one of those characters that's a problem. Like he's always going to be an obstacle. So I'm glad they thought of a way to neutralize him, to kind of sideline him so they could, go forward with this plan, because obviously he would never just let them do it. He would definitely try to stop them if he was roaming free. So I'm glad that they at least thought of let's figure out a way to neutralize Milchick so we can do our plan, because without that, we're dead in the water.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of situations where it doesn't make sense, right? What Lumen stands for and then what they actually do. The big company that Lumen is, they pay attention to every detail, and yet they don't. So that kind of has always been a question that a lot of us have had. But the creator, Dan and Ben Stiller, said that they wanted, especially Dan, because he worked in the corporate world for a while.
Yeah.
He said he wanted to emphasize how big companies, big corporations will have a massive machine going, and yet at the same time are clunky. and
Yeah.
don't carry out things correctly. They do silly things that don't make sense, like
Mhm.
him wheeling in the little cart with the screen and the defiant jazz music, where you think this is Lumen. He shouldn't have to wheel this little cart around, but they wanted it to feel like this is a massive corporation, and yet at the same time, some of the things that they do don't make sense. The Photoshop, right? It wasn't even all that good. um they'll do
It was
silly things
horrible.
where you say, really, like, or like, this is the biggest waterfall, like little things where they will just go out there and do it, knowing it doesn't make sense, but also they're innies. So I don't know that they're so worried about the innies following the thread and noticing that it's not making sense.
That's a good point. I mean, yeah, maybe they are underestimating the innies from the start, where they're just not expecting them to ever be a threat. They're not expecting them to ever be a problem. And I think that's why they kind of create the innie program the way they do, the way they isolate each department, away from each other, the way they want these departments kind of fearing each other so they won't work together. Yeah, that does make sense, where that would be a little bit of an oversight for a big corporation that, they think they have all their kind of bells and whistles in order, their house in order. But it's little things like this that they might just completely overlook because they never thought that it would ever be a problem in the first place, because they're always looking at the innies as they're just these docile workers that are never going to cause a problem. So yeah, you could definitely see that being something they just didn't fully think of, or underestimated at least. Can't underestimate the
Yeah.
innies.
And if you, Sevis, have worked in the corporate world or have worked for a big company in a cubicle, maybe you have noticed that in your workplace, while the company is making a ton of money and they're like in the top of banks, companies, um,
Mhm.
they can't find enough pens. Like, you have to buy your own pens, or the markers are always
Yes.
dried up. Things that just are not adding up. Like, how is this company running out of markers for the whiteboard? How is the whiteboard so old that it has been hand me down like through centuries at this point? And they do silly things like this where it's not adding up. But I'm wondering if the Sevis, if you work in the cubicle, have you had this experience?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, if anybody has ever worked in corporate America, or this kind of workplace environment, yeah, what do you guys think? I mean, because you do bring up a very good point. Because I feel like we even see that has become even a bit of a cliche in movies and TV shows and stuff. Where yes, you have this company that is at the top of their game in their respective field, yet you see the actual employees that make this company what it is, that make this company run, have to spend money out of their own pocket to get supplies just to get through the day. And it's like, it's super fucked up. It should not be that way. But yeah, these corporations, they don't care. They don't care. They'll happily let you spend your own money on things like pens and ink and things like that. It's crazy.
Yeah. Or
Absolutely.
they'll have the perk where once
Yeah.
you're interviewing, they say, we have coffee, you get coffee. But then you look at the coffee machine and it's the oldest, most decrepit coffee machine. And you're like, oh, free coffee. The
No
coffee
wonder it's
machine.
free. No wonder the coffee's free. Look at it. Look at the state of it. Yeah, yeah, I can totally see that. Can totally see that being a thing. We got Chris Tan, unpronounceable, for $5. Thank you so much. Very much appreciate you, my friend. Well, a super chat goal. Also like the stream, everyone. Yes, they've started up this super chat goal thing that you can set up at the beginning of every stream, and it's just a way to unlock a exclusive kind of stream. And for us, we are going to unlock a Severance trivia stream if the goal is hit. We had such a fun time doing the From trivia stream. That was so much fun. Like, because we picked some really interesting questions surrounding the From TV series, ranging from good to hard, and from easy to hard. and it was a blast. It seemed like people had a really, really good time doing that. So yeah, we're probably gonna gear up and hopefully do a Severance trivia stream one of these days if this goal gets hit, because I think the Severance trivia could be really fun, because Severance has so many interesting details and so many interesting little facts where you can find a lot of questions that are going to be rather easy that most watchers will be able to easily answer. But then you'll also be able to get some of those questions that only the most die-hard attention to detail fans are going to know. So it'll be a little bit of a mix of both if we do it. And I think that'll be fun for sure. But thank you so much, Chris Tan, for the $5. Very much appreciate you. We also got Gary Davlin for $10. Wow, thank you so much, Gary Davlin. I see the jazz emojis, and maybe as another Defiant Jazz fan. But yeah, thank you so much, Gary. That was incredibly generous of you. And I don't see a question attached, but if you have a particular question or a particular topic that you want to dive into, or anything at all, by all means, definitely leave another comment in the chat, and I will definitely bring it up. I always feel bad when people super chat but don't have like a question or a topic. I feel like I want to give people their money's worth, you know. But if there's anything specific you want to talk about, Gary, by all means, leave a regular comment in the chat, and I will definitely see it, and we will talk about it. But thank you so much for the 10. I very much appreciate the support. You guys have been super supportive, and I really cannot thank you enough. We've loved diving into Severance, and we're going to continue to dive into Severance. Severance week is not over. We have another week of Severance content that we are planning for next week as well. A lot of fun and interesting activities we're going to be doing that are Severance focused. So yeah, the Severance train is not quite stopping just yet. But thank both of you. Very much appreciated. Thank you, Kristan, and thank you, Gary, for the super chats. And I owe you guys at least a do it, Seth.
Yes! Do it, Seth!
Do it, Seth. That one will never get old.
Love it. And also the fact that they called it back with the Kier statue. Out of all people, the Kier statue being super disrespectful, and also saying thank you, Seth.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, it did kind of almost sound like a callback to that episode 4 when John Turturro says it, didn't it? It did kind of sound like that. The freaking mannequin just going back and forth with him was hilarious. And this is true as well. I just learned about this the other day, actually, that yes, Trammell Tillman is going to be starring in the next Mission Impossible movie, The Final Reckoning. And while he can't really talk about his character yet, I mean, I've heard him mention it in a few interviews, but he never gives any details. But yes, our very own Mr. Milchick is going to be starring, or not starring, but at least going to be co-starring alongside of Tom Cruise himself in the next Mission Impossible movie, The Final Reckoning. And I can't wait to see that. I mean, I usually always try to catch the Mission Impossible movies. I mean, it's not my favorite series in the world, but it's something to always watch at least, because I really did enjoy the first two. But I'll definitely be watching this one, if nothing else, just to see Trammell Tillman and see what kind of role he's going to be playing in this Mission Impossible movie. And that's one thing I really hope we see a little bit more of. There's a lot of really phenomenal actors on this series that, they land a role that's just so iconic, a role that is just like so much them. And I feel like Trammell Tillman has landed such a role with Milchick. Like I could never in a million years picture anybody else playing Milchick other than Trammell Tillman. Like he has completely crafted this character as his own. So it's nice to see actors when they have a nice breakout role like that. You start to see them pop up in other projects and they start getting other more mainstream work. So yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on Trammell Tillman's career for the rest of his career. I'll be definitely very much looking forward to seeing what else he's going to be in the future. But yeah, Mission Impossible fans, if there are any, Milchick himself will be appearing in the next Mission Impossible movie. Should be interesting.
I'm going to follow him into oblivion. He is just amazing. And the Civis are right. They are mentioning that he is always disrespected. So I will show him some respect, and I will watch anything that he said.
I will too. Yeah, 100%. And it is. It is 100% true. The guy is always being disrespected. He never gets the respect he deserves. I feel like he's a huge reason for Lumen even still being standing after some of the shit that has happened on this severed floor. That if it wasn't for him, it probably would have been way worse. He's been so loyal and so dedicated to this company, and they haven't shown him the proper respect that he deserves. And I'm glad he at least calls Drummond out on that in episode 9. It would have been nice to see him kind of follow up on that a little bit more in this episode, and instead of kind of falling right back into the old manager Milchick where he's trying to stop them. But then again, he takes his job seriously. Like he takes his word seriously. He's the head of the severed floor, so he feels like this is his responsibility to keep the severed floor running smoothly. So even while I imagine he probably doesn't want to be fighting with the innies and getting hit in the head with a trombone by Helly, he feels like he has to. This is his job. He's the head of the severed floor. I have to keep things balanced, even keel, especially with the bad performance review that he received this season as well, which definitely seemed to affect him very negatively. But yeah, Milchick's a beast at the end of the day. He is a beast. And again, at the end, when he finally does break out of that bathroom, someone said that it reminded them of the Hulk last night. But for me, it totally reminded me of the Terminator. It reminded me of Robert Patrick's Terminator from Terminator 2, the original best Terminator movie, in my opinion. Terminator 1's great. It is the original. But Terminator 2, for me, is the best Terminator movie that's ever been made. And he reminded me of Robert Patrick's Terminator in that scene where he kind of finally breaks down the freaking vending machine. Then the way we see him hop onto the vending machine was super fucking funny. And the red light in the background, it was just giving me heavy Terminator vibes. Like Milchick had just turned into the freaking Terminator, for crying out loud. That was a really fun scene to see him kind of just break through that freaking door, and then just again the hop. I think it's the hop that did it the most for me. Yeah. Seeing this hop where he finally breaks out, and then you just see the hop, whop, 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 whop. Like, it's so fucking good. And he's so good in this role. Phenomenal actor.
Amazing. He's amazing in the role. But not only that, I'm just noticing he knocked the door down.
Yeah.
So the door is completely missing. That's a lot of, you could say a lot of things about Mr. Milkshake. What you could never say is that he doesn't do his job. No matter what the innies are doing, how wild they're running, how disrespectful, or how much they're assaulting, hitting him, biting him. He's always his job. He's like a babysitter. Like the innies are toddlers going around biting him, just doing the most awful things, running around the hallways, and he's always just doing his job.
He really is. I mean, that's what I'm like. The guy, he always does perform his duties to the best of his ability. Like, no matter what he's doing, whether it's something as simple as handing Dylan this response from his Audi, like he hands it to him all like super kind of like neat and sophisticated, and then just runs out of the fucking room super fast because he knows he's late for his marching band practice and he has to get there in time. Like, he takes it all super seriously, and he is very good at his job. He's, like you said, he's never not doing his job. Can never say that about him. That's for sure. And yeah, this was just a really fun scene, seeing him kind of just burst out like that. And yeah, great casting, right? Like this really was phenomenal casting. And I feel like that can be true. That can be said for all of the characters on Severance. Like this is such a great cast. Like, it's not just Milchick. It's not it's not just Trammell Tillman. I couldn't picture anybody else playing Milchick as, but every other cast member on this show, I couldn't picture anybody else playing these roles other than the people that are playing these roles. And sometimes that'll happen for me, where I'll be watching another show and I'll feel like, oh, this is like a really interesting role, but if such and such was playing this role, it would be so much better. I don't get that feeling at all when I'm watching Severance. I feel like they got exactly the right people for the right job in every single casting. And yeah, I mean, like Adam Scott is great as well. Adam Scott for Ethan Hunt. I mean, they do look a lot alike, especially here in Severance. But with the way Adam Scott's hair is on Severance, it's a little bit longer, a little bit more Mission Impossible 2 Ethan Hunt-esque. Yeah, they did look a lot alike at the beginning of season 2, Adam Scott and Ethan Hunt. But Adam Scott's another one where he's just super phenomenal. And you hear some of the other cast members talking about like just how impressed they are with him and in what he brings to every scene that he plays, and the way that he's crafted these two different marks to be so different from one another, which they are. I mean, and I feel like we got a really perfect example of how different they are in that brilliant scene when they're going back and forth, just talking to one another. And this is something that I imagine is probably a little bit tough, you know, for an actor to get into the head space of one character and then to have to switch into a totally different headspace for another character in the exact same scene at the same time. That's probably not something that's super easy to just go back and forth like that. So I do feel like he's really, really showed how much range he has as an actor. I think Milchick has, you know, Trammell Tillman, of course, has so much range. But I feel like Adam Scott is really kind of breaking out of his mold, where I know a lot of people kind of viewed him as more of a fun comedy kind of actor, considering his roles in Parks and Recreation or Step Brothers or all the other comedies he's been in. A lot of people see him as a comedy actor, but I feel like this role is going to do so much for his career, where every studio is going to be looking at this and think, okay, he's got real range. Like, we can definitely start considering him for some more serious roles in the future. So I think this is going to be great for his career. I would not be surprised if we start seeing Adam Scott pop up in tons of stuff.
Oh, for sure. And it's like the Sevis are saying, everybody is incredibly well casted. I wouldn't
Yeah.
change an actor. Like, everybody is perfection. I wouldn't make any change. And also, they had a great idea and question that we haven't thought about. But of course, the Sevis know all, the Sevis think of everything. They were commenting when you were talking about Mr. Milkshake and the band performance, how if Minnie Milkshake was there, she would have had time to give the letter to Dylan and to participate in that. And it makes me think, if Minnie Milkshake was in the slaughter, right? The rebellion of the Innies, what way would she have gone? Would she have gone with Mr.
Ooh.
Milkshake and backed them up, or would she have gone with the Innies?
Man, that's it. I mean, if you would have asked me before episode 9, I would have said she definitely would have backed up Milchick and stopped the innies. But now I'm not so sure, especially after the way Minnie Milkshake kind of started to realize that, or at least started to see the Sevies as, you know, the innies as more than, you know, or as less than human at first. She didn't even consider them to be human. You know, we hear her say it, that, you know, you shouldn't give them funeral. It makes them feel like they're human. So we know how she originally kind of viewed the innies at first. But I do feel like this position did change her. And I feel like we see that change very clearly in her final episode when we see that Dylan scene, like you mentioned. And she straight up says to Dylan, I'm sorry, Dylan G. I should have facilitated more. And she did not have to kind of step up and offer that information. And Milchick even seemed like he got a little bit mad that she even spoke out of turn. He told her, as soon as she says that, I believe he tells her, like, that's enough or something like that, kind of stopping her from talking. So even Milchick didn't want her to say that in that moment. So you know that it was genuine. It was coming from her. This was an actual genuine feeling that she was feeling in the moment, that she felt like she let Dylan down, that she did not do her job as a boss well enough. And this is the result now. Dylan wants to give up. He wants to kind of end his existence. So I do feel like Miss Wong, Minnie Milkshake, has come a long way and has evolved a little bit as a character, from kind of arriving as this kind of super indoctrinated, very much Lumen loyalist, where even she's telling Mark at the very beginning of the season, when Mark says, I'm so glad I met 4 new friends at work today. And she's like, no, Mark S., you met 3 friends. I'm a manager. Like, she's super serious.
Not a friend.
Yeah,
Not
not a friend. And to see her in that scene, and then to see her in her final scene with Dylan, to see how much she's changed, I do feel like she's spent enough time with the innies to realize that they are human. These are actual people that have lives. Their lives might not be their own, but this is the only life they have. They are living, breathing, conscious people. And I feel like she finally realized that. So that makes it a little bit tougher to answer. Like, if she was there when this whole thing broke out, yeah, after that scene, I wouldn't have been surprised if she helped the innies.
Hmm.
What about
That's
you?
a good point. That's an excellent point. And I want to know what the Sevis thinks. So Sevis, do you think she would have helped Mr. Milkshake? Yes or no? And why? I'm
Mm.
thinking, right, as I'm seeing that the Sevis know all and they're making comments about the way that above everything, even though Mr. Milkshake was her boss, she was always trying to spite him. She was always trying to see if he made a mistake so that she could report it. So in this case, it makes me think, even though she did show that she had empathy towards the innies, not only would she help them because she has this newfound empathy, but also because this makes it so that she could potentially get Mr. Milkshake's job. I would just
Ooh,
just lock the bathroom door and then he's going to get fired and Minnie Milkshake gets what she wants. Maybe she could be floor manager.
maybe you definitely did get the sense that she maybe wanted his job, especially earlier in the season with her kind of the little back and forth they have in the copy room when she's like, "Oh, right, your performance review is today, isn't it?" Yeah, no, yeah, you're right. I could totally see her potentially wanting that job, and maybe she could have seen this as an opportunity to make Milchick look bad, so she could get that job. So that's a very good point. I agree with you there. That I can definitely see her going that route too, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I don't think Miss Wong would have flipped. I think it was a performance. Yeah, it might not have been genuine. I feel like it was genuine. At least the Dylan G scene, I feel like that was genuine. I feel like there's really no reason for her to offer up that information at that moment, for her to say that to Dylan. I mean, I feel like if she only wanted to kind of stick it to Milchick, there's numerous ways she could have done that. Me personally, I did get a kind of genuine sense from her in that scene, especially after the scene that her and Milchick shared earlier in the episode, when Milchick kind of forces her to smash her favorite perk, her little game of Kier. So there might have been a degree of her wanting to get back at Milchick, but she did kind of come across as genuine in that scene. I do think it was genuine. But again, I don't know. I could be wrong. I very much could be wrong. She might have been just playing the game the whole time. That is very possible for sure. Huang is feeling empathy like a like a psychopath. She would have sent for help, not to help Milkshake, but to make herself shine, as Zombie Italian says. And yeah, maybe it would have been a little along those lines where she sees an opportunity to make herself look good and make Milkshake look even bad. So I think you and PM are right. I could definitely see her going that route, at least, for sure. Milkshake turned into a super villain at the end of the episode. Like I was saying earlier, he really did kind of remind me of the Terminator, like Terminator 2, Robert Patrick's Terminator, his T-1000. The most iconic Terminator villain in the history of the franchise, as far as I'm concerned. He gave me those kind of vibes when he broke down that door and finally jumped onto the freaking vending machine. Like, he gave me Terminator vibes in that final episode too. So yeah, he definitely slid into his villain cloak for sure. His cloak of skullduggery.
We were so disappointed in him because I know that all of the Sevis and us included were before the finale saying definitely we're gonna get Mr. Milkshake against Drummond. It has to be that. Nothing else would make sense, right?
Yeah.
And then not only did we not get that, but he doubled down on
Yes.
becoming the villain to the innies. So we didn't get what we wanted. He went totally the opposite direction. Somebody still took care of Drummond. I know the Sevis wanted him taken care of, and somebody did still, amazingly. But yeah, I was kind of disappointed in Mr. Milkshake.
Yeah, I mean, especially after episode 9, because I feel like episode 9, it gave us a small glimpse of the redemption that Milchick could potentially have if he continued down that route. It's like he finally stands up to Drummond, tells him to eat shit right to his face in the most sophisticated way ever, devour feculence. It was good. It's like it finally felt like Milchick was taking a step in the right direction. Like he was finally kind of overcoming his programming, the indoctrination, that the loyalty that he feels to this company that will never be loyal to him and doesn't even see him, as a person, which is very evident by the paintings they give him. It's just, I was really hoping that that scene was going to be the start of him kind of realizing that Lumen is not the team to be playing for. This is not the team that I should be loyal to. So yeah, to see that scene in episode 9, him standing up to Drummond, to this in episode 10, I'm like, oh man, I was really hoping he was going to go the other way. But as you mentioned earlier, he always does his job. He is Milchick at the end of the day, and he's always going to do his job.
Yeah. He is always going to do his job. Peach is hilarious, one of our Sevies. She says, everything has gone wrong for him, and Cobel got kicked out for lactation fraud.
Oh, shit. I mean, it's accurate. You are right, Peach. This is very true. Everything has gone wrong for poor Milchick, and yeah, Cobel gets kicked out for lactation fraud.
She was so bad at that too. Remember when she's doing it, then she slams the little baby doll, and the camera focuses on the fact that she gets this little baby doll and slams it, and she's like, "That's how you do it. That's how it works."
Yeah. Very true. Very true. How many more seasons? From what I've heard, a little while back, is they're planning around 4 seasons in total. Now, we do know season 3 has officially been greenlit. Apple has officially gone ahead and ordered season 3. And Ben Stiller has come out publicly and has promised it's not going to take 3 years for season 3 to come out the way it took that long for season 2 to come out. Which hopefully it won't. I imagine we probably aren't going to get any more Severance this year, but hopefully we can get Severance season 3 in 2026 sometime. Hopefully not too late into 2026, because a show like this does take a long time to make with all of the practical shots that they need to shoot and the amount of editing that goes into Severance. And that's the thing. And if you know filmmaking and you know editing, some of these scenes in Severance, like especially Mark's reintegration scenes where you're seeing him kind of flash in between worlds, and it flashes like a bunch of times between all these different things, even though that's a split second of screen time, that is hours of editing that each one of those scenes takes. It takes a long time to properly edit a TV show like this to get those kind of effects, especially when you're using practical shots and you're not just relying on CGI, which Severance very much does. Most of the filming that Severance does is all practical shots. They don't use much CGI. So I can understand when Ben Stiller says it takes a long time to film a season of Severance, because I know how long it takes to do practical filming like this. It takes a lot longer, much more of attention to detail. It's doing 10 different takes on one scene to see which one's going to end up being the best one to use in post-production. A lot goes into making a season of Severance, like, a show like this. So I'm hoping we can get it hopefully no later than like summer 2026, maybe. We'll see. We shall see. By apologizing to Dylan, she admitted that Milchick made a mistake and is a bad leader. I think that was her point. And yeah, maybe part of it was that. Maybe part of it was her kind of wanting to stick it to Milchick a little bit. They have had that kind of weird back and forth all season where they did come across a little more like rivals than they did as coworkers. So yeah, maybe she wants to stick it to Milchick a little bit. Could definitely see that. Mm-hmm. Milchick wants to do a good job, but he doesn't want to buckle under the BS about big words or paperclips. And yeah, I mean, again, he does. At the end of the day, he does want to do a good job. It feels like he genuinely does want to be a good middle management for a company like Lumen. He wants to be respected too. Like that's clearly a big part for Milchick, and it should be. Considering some of the treatment that he has, gone through. And all the stuff that he's done so much for this company. Like he has done so much for Lumen, and to see him still not get the proper respect that he feels he deserves. Yeah, I mean, sometimes it almost seems like it drives him to kind of do his job that much more efficiently, so nobody can say anything about his performance next time, was the kind of vibe I was getting from him. But I guess it's going to be interesting, and I know we touched a little bit on this yesterday, but As as the chat brought up a little while ago, Milchick, everything has been going wrong for poor Milchick, literally everything. Yet Cobel gets fired in an instant for lactation fraud, as it was put. What do we think the consequences are going to be for Milchick? I mean, what do you guys think in the chat? And what do you think as well, PM? Do you think this might be a final straw for Lumen? Do you think we'll see Milchick get fired in season 3?
That's an excellent question. The predictions for season 3 about Mr. Milkshake. I mean, I don't want to live in a world of Severance without Mr. Milkshake. I don't want him to be fired because I need him. I need the character. I need him to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm also thinking that the person that was most opposed to Mr. Milkshake and that was the most, I think, cruel to Mr. Milkshake was Drummond. And Drummond is gone. So potentially we have an opportunity for Mr. Milkshake to keep his job. But I do agree with the Sevis. When you look at his job performance, he said he was going to tighten the leash.
Yeah.
He didn't. They're more wild than they've ever been. They've never been this feral or wild. So at this point, it's like his job performance, it's suffering. The Indies are rebelling. And this is what, the second rebellion? Yeah, it is. It is. It's the second rebellion. So, I mean, I hope that he keeps his job. Hopefully. Maybe if Helly becomes CEO in season 3, she will let him keep his job.
Yeah, maybe. Because I do think that's going to be a major storyline in season 3. Helena potentially getting switched off and Helly being brought into the real world because James Eagan straight up says he doesn't love his daughter, but he sees Kier inside Helly. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him attempt to swap out his daughter for Helly and we start seeing Helly in the real world. And as he's trying to maybe, ready her to become the next CEO, I would not be surprised if we see that. But yeah, I mean, yeah, if that was the case, obviously, maybe we'll see how Helly kind of treats someone like Milchick after some of the things he's done. Will she let him keep his job or not? I don't know. But I mean, Lumen, like, again, they fired Cobel for much less than this. And Cobel was someone who literally created the Severance chip. Like she's contributed so much to this company. And I think that's why that one conversation between her and Helena, probably pissed her off so much when Helena is straight up telling her, you overestimate your contributions to this company and and your blessings. And it's like, man, like, does she not know that she created the Severance chip? Does she know like the magnitude of what she's saying when she says she overestimates her contributions, considering if it wasn't Cobel, Lumen probably never would have become as powerful as they are now. The Severance chip probably made them the pioneer in this field of technology, which may probably easily led them to monopolize this Severance technology, which blew them up globally, probably bigger than they would have ever been otherwise. And even given all that, given everything that Cobel has done for the company, James Eagan still didn't mind seeing Cobel get fired over way less than what has transpired under Milchick's watch. Like under Milchick's watch alone, there were 2 rebellions and the disastrous Orpo, 3 calamity events, like just absolutely catastrophic events, 3 freaking times now, and he hasn't gotten fired. So I do wonder, like, is this maybe the final straw with Drummond getting killed on his watch too? Like Drummond's dead. He is dead, like DED dead. And I mean, I have to imagine there's going to be some big kind of consequences for Milchick in season 3. Like, I don't know. Part of me thinks he will maybe get fired, or if he doesn't get fired, at the very least, he's going to get reprimanded a lot. Like, I can't see how he wouldn't after all of blunder after blunder after blunder, 3 in a row now. And yeah, he didn't even create the Severance chip, so why are they going to feel any loyalty to him at all after all of this? I don't know. I'm a little
I have an idea. We can save him. We can't live in a world without Mr. Milchick being part of the Severance floor. It's just not, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to feel the same. So he can still save face with the company if he's the one that catches Mark and Helly running through the hallway. If he's the one that captures them for Lumen, then potentially they would let him keep his job because he fixes that problem for them. Um, which, I mean, he didn't really cause the problem. When you remember what he said, it's only their working hours are my responsibility. Cobel was
Yes.
helping Mark outside of work, so
Yeah.
it's not really his fault. But if he does capture Helly and Mark running through those hallways, then potentially he may be able to keep his job.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, maybe he can redeem himself before it completely gets out of hand. He can not if he could potentially catch Helly and Mark, or maybe even luckier, catch Gemma before she gets out of the building, because she's left without an escort now. The original plan was for Audi Mark to, for any Mark to step through that door too, and he would have swapped over to Audi Mark. Audi Mark then would have been able to get Gemma out of the building. But with Gemma kind of just stranded there on her own in that stairwell by herself, yeah, I mean, you start to wonder, is she even going to make it out? And can Milchick stop her yet again? And we'd see a very interesting parallel of Milchick always being the one who stops Gemma from escaping. The first time in the flashback episode, it's Milchick who stops her. And if he were to stop her again, it would be interesting to see them continue that parallel where Milchick is Gemma's jailer at this point. And I love how they can play it that way, considering some of Milchick's own very words. And I know we've talked about this in the past, but at the beginning of the season, we saw Milchick seemingly kind of feeling remorse for what he put Mark and some of the innies through. Like, I locked you in a room like an animal, and I have to live with that for the rest of my life. Yet he says that knowing that he's doing this, that they are doing this to Gemma right beneath his nose, and he's actively stopping Gemma from escaping. So it would be an interesting kind of parallel to that scene if he was the one to stop Gemma again, if she doesn't make it out of the building. And I guess that's a question I would ask you guys in the chat, and you as well, PM. Seeing that Gemma is on her own there, seeing that Mark is not there to guide her out of the building, what do you guys think? Do you guys think Gemma's going to make it out of the building? Will Gemma get free of Lumen? Will she make it to the parking lot and out of the building and safe? Or do you think there's a possibility that Gemma might get grabbed up before she can escape the building?
You know, I would like to be hopeful that Gemma could escape on her own and figure out where the entrance or the exit is. In this case, the exit. However, we have seen what the floor looks like. It's very complicated. You have to go down an elevator, and there is somebody downstairs by the elevator that sees everybody that's coming and going.
Yeah.
After that, there's a front desk. So in this case, I think that she would need Cobel or Devon, probably Cobel, because what does Devon know, right?
Yeah.
To escort her out of the premises. Other than that, I don't see how she's going to make it through the elevator and the person at the front desk.
It's going to be tough. Yeah, it's going to be a very tall order for her to make it out now. I mean, yeah, she doesn't know that. I imagine she doesn't know this building from a hole in the wall. She has no idea where to go, how to get there. Like, I imagine she's super disoriented after being severed, 25 different times. Her brain's probably going in a million different directions at any one moment. I can only imagine what it must do to the human brain, especially long term. This is why I worry for Gemma. Being severed that many times, having your consciousness split that many times is bound to have some kind of side effects down the road. There's just no way this is good for the human brain, for the chemistry of the human brain. There's no way that this isn't going to affect her negatively at some point, I feel. But yeah, I mean, will she be able to make it out of the building? What do you guys think? Is Gemma going to make it home free? Will she actually make it out? Or could she potentially get grabbed up before she gets out of the building? I don't know. And like you said, a few people are also saying that they're hoping Cobel will scoop Gemma up. Maybe she will. It seems Lumen security is pretty lame. And that's a very good point, Ronald. And we talked about this a little bit earlier as well. And I 100% agree with you that it is pretty crazy considering the severed floor. seems to be where their most sensitive and most important work is happening. You would think that would be their most secure floor of all, that they would have security everywhere on that floor, like guards at the stairwells, guards in the hallways, a security operations desk, surveillance, all of it. But you look at it and yeah, their security is super lame. They don't have a really good security force on the severed floor. Or if they do, they are certainly not utilizing it, because we always see these halls just completely empty, completely bare. No one's ever even guarding the stairwell. These innies can kind of just run wild and run amok on the severed floor with not really many people to stop them. Really, there's only Milchick to stop you. And them sidelining Milchick is, at that point, they're really free to do whatever they want. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of security. So maybe that would play in Gemma's favor, where maybe she could get out if the rest of the building is as unsecure as that. But then again, as you mentioned, PM, we do at least have that one security guard down there that's right there in front of the severed elevator, where you have to at least find a way to get past him.
Yeah, and the Sevis, the chat knows all. This is the fire escape. That makes sense. That makes sense, Sevis. So Mark did help her in a way where she can potentially get out of the building by herself, because the building was on lockdown, and he guided Gemma to the fire escape. So she could just run down the stairs. Correct.
She could potentially make it out.
Know all.
Yeah, yeah, the Sevi's always got it. She could very well get lucky, just go right down those stairs, find an exit, and boom, she's off that. She could very well get out of there. It's definitely a possibility. I hope she does too. I mean, that would be, how devastating would that be if we saw season 3 begin and we see her kind of running down the stairs, only to get to the bottom of the stairs and see the exit, and then see Milchick or someone kind of just step in front of her. Like, how devastating would that be for poor Gemma, after coming so close to kind of smelling and tasting freedom and seeing the sunlight even maybe in front of her, only to get grabbed up again. Like, I really hope that's not the case. I hope she does make it out. But yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Yes, Devin and Gemma can drink wine together finally now. Yeah, some people were saying Devin maybe will come to our rescue, or Cobel. I think Devin has something to do with Gemma's kidnapping. I have heard this kind of theory popping up a little bit recently as well, where all of a sudden there are some people a little bit suspicious of Devin, and I've seen this. I've seen this sentiment echoed more than once. That I don't know. I mean, Devin is giving people some kind of vibes where some people are not trusting Devin. Some people are thinking Devin is Lumen and help set this up, help set Gemma up. And that's a pretty nefarious thought to think of, especially when we look at Devin. And for the most part, she seems to be one of the only kind of just regular, normal people in this crazy, weird Lumen world that they're in, where all of these characters have all these weird quirks about them. They're all super kind of strange. And then you have Devin, who's just like super normal, just like regular, normal, kind of down to earth human. So yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, to see Devin do a heel turn. Imagine if Devin was working for Lumen this whole time and even was behind setting Gemma up to begin with. That would be dark.
That would be so dark and such a twist. And it would involve Rickon, right? Everybody has been wanting Rickon to somehow be involved either with the board or to be an Eagan child. So that would make perfect sense. Maybe she got into working for Lumen because of her association with Rickon. So I could totally see that. But Samuel has an excellent point. He said, Costco has better security than Lumen Industries.
You're not wrong, Samuel. You are not wrong at this point. Costco does probably have better security than the Lumen severed floor. It's wild, but it's probably an accurate statement. Good stuff. And this is another interesting part. I was wondering this too when I was doing my episode 10 breakdown video, which will probably be out tomorrow. I was also playing with this idea as well, and my full thoughts will be in my video. But I did also wonder about this as well. Just because Gemma gets out, just because she does get safe and gets out of the building, it does not necessarily mean that Gemma is going to be safe and home free, because yes, there is the overtime contingency. What if Lumen activates that and all of a sudden just switches Gemma from Gemma to a different Gemma, or worse, from Gemma to Miss Casey in the outside world? Is the overtime contingency something that she's going to have to worry about? I mean, getting her out of the building is all well and good, but that chip is still inside of her brain. So unless she goes through some kind of reintegration, which maybe she will, maybe that's the next character we'll see go through reintegration, is Gemma. Although I wonder how that's going to work. Is it even possible for someone like Gemma to go through reintegration with all of the different personalities she has inside of her? It's one thing for Ragabi to kind of put two marks back together, but if she were to reintegrate Gemma, that's 25 different personalities, 25 different consciousness that she would have to stitch back together into one. Is that even possible to reintegrate someone like Gemma? Because if not, then yeah, the overtime contingency is always going to be a danger to Gemma unless she can get fully reintegrated or get the chip removed. And we don't know if the chip can even be safely removed. It seems like it can't be.
I thought about that because they did show us the overtime contingency very specifically how it worked. They told us all about it. So it has to come back into play. However, we now have something that we didn't have last time that the overtime contingency was activated. We have Cobel. So now that we have
True.
Cobel and she is an ally,
Yes.
we don't know what she's capable of doing.
Yeah.
We only know what Ragabi has told us and her weird freaky science and of like reintegrating, flooding the chip and doing all of these things. She is not the creator.
Yeah.
So while she may have a set of options for you, she is not the creator. Potentially Cobel as the creator can help Gemma bypass this overtime contingency, or can help her, figure out how to maybe not be activated by that, or even remove the chip.
Maybe. I have wondered about removing the chip because we do see that in the intro sequence actually for season 2. At the very beginning, we see this little in the intro sequence, you see a brain and it's kind of covered in water, which almost kind of gives you that flooding the chip kind of foreshadowing. And after that, you literally see the chip sliding out of someone's brain. So I always wondered if that was maybe a potential foreshadowing for someone's chip eventually getting removed. Because yeah, if you're going to remove anyone's chip, you would probably want to remove someone like Gemma's, where reintegration for her might not even be possible with all of these different personalities. And yeah, you have to find some kind of way to neutralize this overtime contingency. I mean, like you said, having Cobel is a bit of a game changer. We really have no idea what this Severance chip can really do, what other functions it has, how it works. We really know nothing about it, how it receives the signal to activate these, contingencies in the first place. Is there some kind of way where Cobel can kind of block Gemma's chip so it doesn't receive a signal from Lumen? That way they can't use the overtime contingency. Is there some kind of procedure like that maybe? Or like you mentioned, is there a possible way that she can remove it? Having Cobel is definitely a game changer there at that point because, like you said, she's the creator. And I think if you had Cobel and Ragabi working together, that would probably be even more beneficial because Ragabi has kind of cracked the one thing that even Cobel thought was impossible, reintegration. Even though it's not a very sound procedure and it's not super safe, it would be interesting to see Cobel and Ragabi team up in season 3 to come up with a way to try and help Gemma and fix this dilemma of hers.
Yeah, and I would like to see the report that those two would have. I imagine it would be hilarious because they dislike each other. We know that much. Even though we have never seen a scene with both of them together, we know the way that they talk about each other. Every time that Cobel says Ragabi, like, oh no, it's her. It has to be her. She's running around destroying my technology.
Yes.
And we saw the way that Ragabi reacted to Devon saying that she was going to call Cobel. So it would be really interesting to see how they would even work together and the animosity of them attempting to work together while hating each other.
Yeah, it's very true. Very true. I mean, Yeah, and you definitely get the sense that there is some interesting history between Rogabi and Cobel. Like we know Rogabi at some point worked for Lumen, at some point left and severed ties with Lumen. That's the backstory I want to learn a little bit more about, and I hope we do learn a little bit more about that in season 3. Let's learn a little bit more about Rogabi's character. How did she first start working at Lumen? How did she end up leaving Lumen? What kind of relationship did her and Cobel really have? Because again, you hear Rogabi referring to Cobel as, she's a soldier. She'll never betray them. So she clearly knows Cobel very well, from her time at Lumen. So yeah, I would love to see a little kind of background on Cobel and Rogabi and their shared history. I would love for that to be a scene or a flashback episode we get in season 3. That'd be really cool. That would be really cool. But yeah, the question remains: why was Gemma being used for testing the chip's limits? And again, I mean, I think this is why a lot of people were a little underwhelmed with the whole Cold Harbor reveal, and I think some people were expecting something a little bit bigger with bigger ramifications, because we hear all season, even from Drummond himself, that the work Mark is doing on Cold Harbor is going to go on to change the world. It's going to go on to be the most important work in human history. And to see that they're kind of testing this Severance chip in terms of testing what will transcend the Severance barrier, what kind of emotions will transcend from one to the other. Because at the very end, when we see her in the Cold Harbor room and she's taking apart the crib, the one thing we hear Dr. Maurer saying is, she's doing it. She doesn't remember. She doesn't feel anything. She doesn't feel the gravity of what she's doing right now. And yeah, you start to wonder, what is the next step? What is the end game goal for this? Why are they doing this? And I think that's something they maybe could have kind of landed a little clearer in this finale. Just exactly why this is going to go on to affect the world in such a profound way. Because we've heard that from multiple characters, that this is going to be monumental. This is everything that Lumen had been working for. This is such a momentous day, as Jay Megan likes to say. So yeah, I totally understand why some people were a little underwhelmed with the finale in terms of the Cold Harbor reveal. And I guess some people were expecting a little bit more, and I can definitely understand that. And yeah, I don't think it's about resurrecting anyone. I'm starting to think it might not be either after seeing this finale as well. I'm starting to think that the whole resurrect here thing might have just been an interesting fan theory the entire time. So I'm starting to think that in a similar manner as well. Yeah. What about you? You think the resurrection thing is still going to be in play, or after seeing this finale, do you think that maybe that's not on the board anymore?
I think basically the finale answer a couple of questions, but everything is still on the board.
Yeah.
Because we have, I think, more questions, right? After the big reveal. We have other people that were working on numbers. However, Mark was working on Gemma. We have multiple goats getting slaughtered, but one was going to go with Gemma, ushering her to Kier. Who were the other goats ushering to Kier? Who are these other people, right? Who are the other Innies working on if it's not Gemma? And if it has to be, maybe Mark was special because he had that connection and the Innies don't have that connection. They just work on other people. We also know that Bert was driving people and disappearing them. So who are these other people, right? It could potentially be that they are resurrecting or transferring bodies. So we don't know. However, when I was thinking about Cold Harbor, right? I do believe that I am satisfied with what Cold Harbor was. Because when I heard the name Cold Harbor and the symbolism of Cold Harbor, which was a brutal, like one of the most brutal battles between the Union Army and the Confederate Army, where we know who won at the end. However, in that battle, the Union Army was completely slaughtered. We know what the Civil War was about. The Civil War was about people or a country that used to be united in the idea of slavery, and those two factions changing and changing their opinion on it and where they wanted to take, the country. In this case, I think it's really interesting because when it comes to Lumen, you see that dynamic where Lumen wants to have the entire world severed. So basically having a ton of innies that could do the job that you don't want to do. And there's other people, the whole Mind Collective, that doesn't want that for the world. When we think about Cold Harbor, the separation of people that used to be united, you completely separate them from each other. They can no longer work against you. And that's what I thought was going to happen with Cold Harbor ultimately. Having somebody that used to be so united, so profoundly united that they were in love, and in this case, they were married, not even be able to recognize the other person, and therefore not be united in whatever they may do. This would be very helpful if you were trying to separate insurgents or people that could unionize against you. You would just simply sever
Yeah.
them to the point where they can recognize their leader or each other, and you would never have a problem.
Yeah, I mean, like you make a really good point. The real world applications that could be applied for are endless. Like there's so many uses they could use something like that for, to just completely sever someone's emotional attachment to them, the emotional attachment, the memories, all of it. And I did think we were heading in a direction like that, especially when we get that scene in season 1 of Milchick and Cobel stating to each other that it's a good thing they don't remember each other. And that means the technology is working. I'm like, oh shit! I think you had a really great theory on that super early on. And yeah, I mean, I think that would have. I mean, who knows? Could potentially still be. Like you said, there's still so much that is still on the board. This finale didn't really debunk a whole lot of theories. Like a lot of the big theories that were out there surrounding Severance are still pretty much in play for the most part. The finale didn't really debunk much. Because again, it gave us some answers, but nothing too crazy, big, profound in terms of what they were going to use this technology for. But yeah, I mean that's always been interesting to see. What other potential uses are there going to be behind this severance chip? Is it just kind of severing someone's emotions so they don't feel the emotional pain of a loss that they had previously gone through? What is that? What is the real world application for that going to be? I heard a lot of people asking, like, okay, now that we've learned this, what are they going to use it for? Which again is something we still don't know a whole lot about. But yeah, it's interesting. And again, I see a lot of people in the chat bringing up some of the other programs, like the Beehive program, the Clean Slate program. There's the branch transfer and all of the other ones. A lot of people are wondering if those are going to come into play at some point. And I get the feeling they probably will. I mean, we've seen 3 of them already get used: the overtime contingency, the Glasgow block, and those 2 actually. But yeah, we got so many other designations on that list, so many other functions that this chip could potentially do. That's what I want to see. What else is this severance chip capable of? And is there something that Cobel can do to help Gemma because she's so knowledgeable on the chip? And I'm hoping she can. Like it seems like Cobel was pretty sincere in trying to help. And I thought it was interesting at the very end of the sequence at the beginning of the episode when Mark and Mark were talking to each other. We hear one little scene from Cobel as Mark is as any Mark is getting pissed and he's ready to leave, and he's like, the next time I wake up, it better be on the severed floor. We hear Cobel say, "Mark, I care for you." And I don't know, it sounded kind of genuine. Like she straight up says, "Mark, I care for you." And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me. Maybe Cobel is pulling the wool over my eyes, but she did almost sound a little sincere in this scene. So I am starting to wonder, what exactly is Cobel to Mark? Why has Cobel always had this interest in Mark, this fascination with Mark, where she wanted to get super close to him, super close to his innie, close to his outie? And no, whatever Milchick says, I don't believe it was because she wanted a throuple. I think that is a lie. But I am starting to wonder, what exactly is Cobel to Mark? And what is the connection there? Why does Cobel care for Mark so much? Why is Mark so important to her? At first I thought that Mark was only important to her because Mark was important to Lumen. Well, that was pretty established pretty clearly early on that Mark was very essential to Lumen, that they needed Mark to complete Cold Harbor. So part of me always thought that was her only interest in Mark. But now I'm not so sure. Now that she has kind of severed ties with the company and has gone her own way and is still like heavily invested in helping Mark when she never helps anybody, I have to start to wonder, what exactly is this connection between Cobel and Mark? Do you think we'll find out in season 3 that they have a deeper connection that hasn't been revealed yet?
Yeah, potentially. And I do see some of the Sevis, Savior saying mother, which would be
Yes.
very shocking, as we don't know much about Devon and Mark's parent. And seeing in that picture, she would have to be Devon's mother too. So I could see it. I could see how she could be the mother. The way that I think about it, based on the information that we have right now, is that she, at the beginning, was interested in seeing how her technology was working and seeing the project in a way that she wasn't privy to. So she got close to Mark. However, once you get close to Mark, she did see his pain, his suffering. We see it when she's looking like out the window and he is drinking, watching TV, and she
Yeah.
goes, "Oh, Mark." She feels for him.
Yeah.
So potentially, it's after being so close to him that she starts to become maybe a little bit attached to Mark. And even though she is doing something horrible, right? She still is growing in attachment because not only is Mark kind to her, but we see
Mhm.
how Mark and Devin embrace her into the family to the point where she's getting invited to a book reading
Yeah.
and she's getting invited to family events. So, it becomes a friendship in a weird, strange, and twisted way.
It has. It has become it's unlikely bedfellows is kind of how it ended up playing out, where they did kind of slowly become weird friends, and they kind of weirdly ended up really relying on each other and could only rely on each other in this finale. Like there's nobody else Cobel could have relied on to kind of strike this blow against Lumen and help Mark. There's no one. You can kind of understand now why Devin wanted to call Cobel. I know a lot of people questioned that decision in the first place. That Devin was probably not making a good decision by even bringing Cobel into this, but in hindsight, yeah, it was the right call. I mean, Cobel helped a lot, I feel, and is going to probably go on to help a lot, especially where Mark's reintegration is concerned, considering she did create this tech. And that's why I do really want to see Cobel and Ragabi have some scenes together and maybe work together on Mark's reintegration to make it a little bit safer and to hopefully provide that service for other innies who want it. But yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like there is some kind of personal connection there between Cobel and Mark. And again, I did see a few people bringing up in the chat that maybe it's the mother. That was my first initial thought as well. Like, could Cobel really be Mark's mother? Is that a possibility? Because I know a lot of people have thought that Cobel is a secret Eagan, or Mark has been a secret Eagan, or they're related to the Eagans in some way, which still could very well be true in some manner. There's still a lot we don't know about their parents. But yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like the connection was genuine, or at least I got a genuine vibe from Cobel when she was like feeling bad for Mark in this episode. Like, Mark, I care for you in this scene, or the scene that you mentioned as well, which was super subtle, but you definitely got that genuine kind of feel for her, which she was like, Mark, 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 Mark. Like, she did genuinely like feel bad that she had to say this to him, that there will be no honeymoon ending for you and Heliar. Like, it kind of hurt her to tell Mark that directly. But yeah, I don't know. I am starting to get a sense that her feelings toward Mark might be genuine. Like, maybe she does really care about him.
Yeah. And I always go back to what you have told us. Once you introduce something, it's introduced, every line is introduced for a reason. It's
Yep.
going to be important, it's going to come back, right? Especially in a show like Severance, where we do get really powerful lines. Um, James Eagan, we don't hear him speak a lot. The Sevis were saying it. He sounds like he is in pain when he
Yes.
speaks because he speaks in such a manner. One of the things that he does say in this finale is, I sired many children.
Yes.
Um, And so why would he tell us that unless we're gonna get a secret Egan? There's gonna be somebody
Yeah,
that we know that's gonna
exactly.
end up being one of those children that James Egan had. It's either gonna be Cobel or potentially Mark. I don't think that they would put that in there from a character that hardly even speaks to us, um, if it wasn't going to pay off. Not only that, but they have hinted at this twice when Cobell goes into the cabins and gives the secret password and says, "This is one of James."
Yes, yes. It's something that has been happening. You get the sense it's been happening for a long time, that he has been, fathering these other children, hoping to find Kier inside of them, like he used to see Kier in his daughter, like he sees Kier in Helly now. So yeah, I mean, like you said, you don't introduce something like that into a show unless you're planning on using it for something else in the future. So I 100% agree with you. I think that was the perfect direct foreshadowing for some of these characters. One, maybe two, to be secret Eagans, to be secretly maybe the secret kind of child of James Eagan. And maybe we'll find out, Mark and Devin were maybe, and maybe not even both of them, maybe just Mark was adopted or something like that. And we'll find out that there is some kind of connection there. Because, yeah, you don't introduce a line like that. You don't introduce a side little kind of tidbit like that with James Eagan unless you're planning on kind of fleshing that out a little bit more. So it is kind of the perfect foreshadowing and the perfect setup for there to be secret James Eagan children running around, whether it's Devin or Mark, or some people think Rickon is an Eagan. Who knows? Who knows? Yeah, Sired Many, definitely foreshadowing. It did kind of feel like that, right? Like it did feel like it was foreshadowing for us to find out some more children from him, for sure. That there are some more children for him, for sure. It's the guy, and like you guys mentioned, he does kind of sound like he's in pain. Like he does not sound good. He doesn't sound healthy. He doesn't sound strong. He sounds a momentous day, like he is on his last breath, like he's getting ready to just keel over with the next word that he kind of sputters. But yeah, it was I think it was very foreshadowing that he's going to have some other children, and that maybe we've already met some of them for sure. And yeah, James admitting that he didn't love Helena made me giggle. I did kind of laugh a little bit. I was a little shocked, but not shocked at the same time, but it did kind of have that little bit of a chuckle feeling to it. It's like, oh my fucking God, this guy is just super weird. And I think Helly's response to him, and you brought this up, which I 100% agreed with, Helly's response to him was perfectly spot on. Like, dude, you're fucking weird. Like, you're fucking weird.
Get away from me. Like, you just come into the room and say, "Hey, I don't love my daughter." Okay. Very random, very strange, super weird. But Sevis, let's follow the thread, because I just, I'm following and asking the questions. Sevis, if your prediction is correct and Mark is a secret Egan, this is going to be an insane season 3. That means
Yes.
that Mark and Helly cannot be together. They're going to be siblings. So that relationship has to be like done, right?
Mm. I mean, yeah, maybe. Maybe. Maybe
They
it's
would
going to
be
have to
brother and
be.
sister. Yeah.
Like if they find out they're half brother and half sister,
Yeah.
well, yeah, what does that do for Mark and Helly? I mean, eesh. I mean, I know incest runs in the Egan family, but it's not something you should continue to practice, especially if you're knowing it ahead of time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's going to be sticky. That's going to make the situation way more sticky for sure. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. And yes, I do definitely think that this is going to be happening in season 3, that James wants to swap Helena for Heliar. I feel like that was the whole reason that he came to see her on this severed floor. We hear Helly saying, what do you want from me? What do you want with me? And I think that's it. I do genuinely think that's it. And I know you brought up something similar as well, PM. Yeah, I would be at this point, I feel like I'd be surprised if we don't see this in season 3, where Jaime does try to swap out Helena for Helly, where Jaime does start to let Helly leave the severed floor through the Glasgow block or the overtime contingency or any other kind of protocol they can activate. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jaime does want Helly to take Helena's place in season 3.
I don't know how he's going to make that happen, being that Helly is so severely against Severance.
Will she ever play ball? Yeah.
I mean, how just don't see that happening. How is this going to
Yeah.
work? She was so severely against Severance that she was willing to unalive herself.
Yes.
So I just don't see how you can get her, our Helly, the Helly that we know, to run a company of severed people unless she's working from the inside and she takes over the company so that she could bring it down. That's the only way that I see that working.
Yeah, I mean, Helly, and this is what we always have really liked about Helly. She's always been her own person. She's not very easily swayed. She does what she wants to do. She follows her own path. She takes charge of every situation she's in. She never just sits back. And yeah, no, that's a really good point. Even if Jaime wants Helly to take Helena's place, is Helly ever going to play ball with that? Unless he threatens her with something, unless he threatens her with the life of Mark, the life of Dylan. If she doesn't do this, that's the only way I could ever see her kind of doing something like that, under duress, under threat of Mark's life or something like that. Or maybe he uses the carrot instead of the stick and says, you do this, you and Mark can have a life on the outside, kind of tempts her with that possibility. But yeah, on her own, I never see her kind of just going along with Jaime. It's going to have to be some kind of, threat or reward that he kind of dangles in front of her, I think. So yeah, that's a very good point. She's not just going to play ball. Not with this dude. She already thinks he's so creepy. There's no way she's just going to play ball with him. There's going to have to be some persuading. I mean, she was ready to stab his ass. She's got the pen in her hand and everything. Like, she's literally ready to stab his ass. I thought she was there for a second. I thought she was going to just get him.
Mm-hmm. That would have been great. That would have been great. However, it makes me think about what we saw in the finale regarding Helly. Helly runs over when Mark is about to make that decision of walking out with Gemma. And I think that you're 100% correct. You brought this up in our last live stream. Helly showing up had a huge impact on the decision that Mark made, because he was very very seriously considering walking out with Gemma, but then he turns around and he sees Helly arrive, and that just sealed his decision. Now, because of those actions, we see that while Helly feels for Gemma, Helly is willing to do whatever it is, whatever it takes to get what she wants. And what she wants is Mark Innie. So I think if it was true, in fact, that Lumen offers Helly in exchange for doing the switch with Elena to have any Mark, even though that's going to be at the cost of Gemma, she probably would say yes, because she has been very clear in her stance that their relationship is just as equally important as the relationship that Gemma and Audi Mark have.
Just as important. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and this is what makes it so sticky with the Severance program, with two people sharing a consciousness. Anytime you want to give one person the life they want, you're depriving the other person of the life they want. Like, it's never going to be an evil and fair playing field. And that's why I love how Mark are kind of discussing that very same thing when they're talking about the reintegration, where Mark's like, so how is this going to work? You get the left side, I get the right, you get the top bunk, I get the bottom. And it's like, as much as it would be super nice and clean and neat if it was something like that, where where one Mark gets control of the body for this amount of time and the other Mark gets to control the body of this amount of time, it would make things a little bit easier, maybe. But at that point, you're really just still severed. It's not really reintegration. So yeah, I mean, it's the way that Severance is set up. Anytime you give a severed person the life that they want, again, you're always going to be depriving their opposite, their innie or their outie, depriving them of their life. So yeah, what's it gonna? How is this all gonna play out? Because again, I definitely could potentially see Jaime wanting Helly to take over as the new Helena, but again, I mean, so many things are gonna have to happen for her to ever play ball with something like that. And I don't know. And that's the thing. We have no idea where Helena's kind of mindset is going to be at towards at the end of the season and heading into season 3 as well. I feel like Helena has also kind of been down an interesting path this season where, yes, I mean, you can make an argument where she's been victimized all of her life as well by Jaime, by her father, by being molded into this next company CEO, but she's also been a perpetrator in terms of all of the deception that she pulled, in particular on Helly and Mark. But I wonder where her head is going to be in season 3. Could we potentially start to see Helena come over to the Innie side maybe a little bit more? Is it a possibility that we can maybe see Helena start to, rebel against her father and Lumen, especially if she ever finds out that Jaime Eagan says that I don't love my daughter anymore. And the fact that Jaime Eagan told Helly that's ammunition. That is ammunition that Helly could use to her benefit. If she could find a way to relay that to Helena, that could be game changing in terms of Helena switching her allegiance.
I mean, I have to wonder if we're even going to see Elena ever again.
Oof.
When he says, "This creepy man, I don't love my daughter," and everything that Helly says makes him like her more. Even when she says, "Your family created hell and now you're going to burn in it." He's like, "Yes, I love it. Give me more. I love that." Right? So there's nothing that she could do that is too aggressive or too mean or too messed up for him to dislike Helly. At this point, I'm wondering if he's just going to take Helly away from Lumen, and when she exits, she's never going to be switched back to Elena. I wouldn't put it past them. That is the type of person that the Eagans are. I do see Pam Jam, one of our favorites, Abby, saying that she was very disappointed in the finale. And Pam Jam, I have to say, you got a lot of things right. A
You
lot
did.
of your theories came came true. When I saw the baby crib, I immediately thought of you. When I saw that Gemma walked in and there was the baby crib, I thought, oh, you know what? Pam Jam was right. It's about a baby. And in a roundabout way, it was about a baby. It was about the loss of a baby. Well, I know that you theorized that there was going to be an actual baby. Um, Baby is still in there. So kudos to you.
Yeah. Yeah, Pam Jam got some really good theories right this season. I do totally agree with you. And yeah, I mean, and again, it's a sentiment that I have seen echoed, throughout the fandom where not everybody was thrilled with this finale. And that's totally cool. It's totally understandable. And it's always fun to kind of discuss these things and see where we agree, where we differ, what we did like, what we didn't like. That's what makes these fun in the first place. But yeah, definitely had it right. It was definitely very baby oriented, and her and Kiwi are going to cry for a week over the finale. It's again, I myself, I loved parts of the finale. There were most of the finale I did enjoy, but there were some parts that I do think could have been a little bit better. Could have been handled a little bit differently, I guess. But yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Riveting show, if nothing else. I mean, regardless of how the ending was of season 2 and how satisfying or unsatisfying it was, I still very much view Severance as probably the most well-produced show that's on TV right now in terms of its writing, its cinematography, it's everything about the show, just the aesthetic, the casting, the crew, the directing, the writing. It really is one of the best produced shows on television right now, and that I've seen in a while in terms of production quality and the value behind the show and the end result. So yeah, it's I mean, it's going to be interesting to see where season 3 goes now. Like, there's a lot of potential different possibilities for where they can go with some of these storylines in season 3. Helly and Helena has a very interesting places they can go with this whole Jaime thing cooking up. Is Helly going to get is Helena going to get replaced and all that? You have Mark. Is he going to continue his reintegration? If he does, how is that going to look like? That's another thing. We still have no idea what it's going to look like when Mark is finally fully reintegrated and there is no innie and outie. There's no way to swap back and forth. We still don't know what that end result is going to look like. Like, is Mark going to just all of a sudden be one person and now he has feelings for Gemma and Helly? Is one of those loves going to die out? I mean, like, we still have no idea what the full end result of his reintegration is going to look like. How do two people, how do two consciousness share a body after all? Like, how do they really equally ever share a body? I don't know how that's going to work out.
That's a great question. And I do see that a lot of the Sebis are echoing the same sentiment from last live stream, where it's not logical that Mark Ennie decided to run away with Helly when he's just endlessly running through a hallway and he doesn't know what he's going to do, where he's going to go, if it's going to work out or not. Um, so I do see that a lot of people have felt that way about him not making the right decision, choosing to go with Helly instead of maybe thinking about the future, going with Gemma, and then potentially looking for Helly or a way to get to Helly again. And I completely understand that. Now, to make the argument for the Innies, for Mark Ennie, this is his first love. We are thinking about Mark Audi and how he has already had a life and a wife and a marriage, but this is Mark Ennie's first love. He's basically a teenager. He has fallen in love with this person, and love is intoxicating. So not only is it that he feels a lot for Helly, but he doesn't have that ability to reflect on past experiences and to make good choices. And if we all remember, he's at the beginning of his life, he's making choices that are not logical, that don't make sense, just so that he could spend 10 more minutes with somebody that he fell in love with. It's, the feeling of having the first crush or um, that sort of thing. So when I think about it, it's like, yeah, they're acting like two teenagers in love where they're not thinking anything through. Was it the right decision? Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely get the sense that it's not going to end well for them, and that's why I do like how you mentioned, like, and how Dan Erickson kind of portrayed it that way, whereas they don't know if they're just going to get a few more minutes together, but all they're thinking about is, this is what I want. This is the person I choose. And it's almost like it's always their natural reaction to just run. They're always spending so much time running down these severed halls. It almost just feels like that was the natural reaction that they both felt. Let me grab Helly's hand and just start running, because that's what we always do in these situations. Where we're running to, I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there, but we need to run right now. It just had that feeling to it, But yeah, it's like you have to wonder, where are they going to go? What's going to happen to them? There's really nowhere they can go ultimately. I mean, yes, the severed floor is pretty big, seems to be pretty large for the most part. There's parts of it that we have never even seen yet, considering there's whole marching bands and shit on the severed floor. Who knows how many other departments are up there? Probably multiple. But yeah, I mean, it was an interesting scene, because it was one of those scenes where they did have no regard for the future. They had no plan. They have no idea where they're going. They have no idea where this is going to lead to, if they were ever going to last. But in that moment, they just knew they wanted each other. Mark and Helly just knew they wanted to be together. They chose each other, and now we run and fight for our lives kind of feeling is what it felt like. The last kind of ditch fucking, last stand kind of thing. But I am looking forward to seeing how it picks up. That's why I really hope when season 3 starts that we're not going to get a time jump. I would hate to see a time jump where season 3 starts, where all of this stuff is already resolved and we learn all about it through either flashbacks or exposition. I really hope that's not the case. I would love to see season 3 literally pick up with Mark and Helly running down that hall still. Let that be the first scene of season 3, them in that same hallway running, so we can see exactly where this story goes. I don't want to see a little time jump that skips ahead a few days and fills the rest in, afterwards. Please start off start off right where you left off.
Yeah, they have to explain how you even get out of that sort of situation, right? And I'm trying to think about the last time that they did this to us. If they picked up right from the party where Mark switches over to Innie, or if they jumped ahead. I believe they jumped ahead, didn't they? Season 2
Um,
starts with them in the office being told that they were turned off for 5 months.
yes.
So
Yep. Yeah, we got it. And even though Milchick lied about the 5 months, we do. I believe we ended up finding out in one of the podcasts that it was like a few weeks ahead of time. So
yeah.
there was a little bit of a time jump. You're right.
So therefore, they do have a history of providing us with a finale that has something like this unresolved, and then
Yeah.
just jumping ahead in time. So I could potentially see them doing that. Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. And I do see something that we totally the Sevis know all. Of course, the
Always.
Sevis know all. When we were discussing bringing Kier back to life, that is definitely still in play because, as the Sevis are saying, we now know that the goats were being sacrificed.
Yeah.
That was very much a sacrificial ritual. And why
Hmm.
else would you do this if it's not to, do some sort of dark ritual to bring Kier back to life? That still seems to be in play, even more so with the sacrifice, I would say.
I mean, the sacrifice was very indicative of like Michael even says here, like this kind of satanic ritual resurrection. So yeah, I definitely think that yeah, maybe the Kier resurrection thing isn't off the table. Maybe that is very much still in play. Because again, looking back, the finale doesn't really outright just debunk many big theories. There's still a lot in play that is in play now that was before the finale still. So yeah, no, I can definitely see that potentially still being a possibility. This show is about a satanic ritual resurrection. Drummond foreshadows with a goat sacrifice where spirit will be entombed with a cherished woman, Gemma. It's all about bringing Kier back. And again, this has been a major fan theory ever since the beginning. Not the satanic ritual stuff, but in terms of like bringing Kier back. A lot of people think that is going to be the end result. That is the ultimate goal, to bring back Kier. And again, it definitely very well could be possible. But you guys are right. I mean, the goat sacrifice, very much kind of pagan / satanic ritual vibes about it, without a doubt. And you see those kind of sacrifices in kind of resurrection, rituals all the time. So maybe there is an end game goal to resurrect Kier. I know a lot of fans really like that theory. It's probably one of the most popular theories in the fandom in terms of what the real end game of the show is. Many people think it is to bring back Kier. Yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Yeah,
And
and
again,
All City, yeah, All City Big Heck makes an excellent point. We know that there is an actor that's going to play Kier.
yes.
So while we could make the argument that that actor has been hired to do flashbacks, and maybe we're going to get to see Kier when flashbacks when he was alive, and not necessarily to be brought back to life, I think that that in itself could be evidence that they have an actor because Kier will be coming back to life.
I mean,
However, there's an issue with that. I just thought about it. There's an issue with
mhm.
that. I take it back. He
Uh-oh.
wouldn't be in the same body.
True. I mean, I can understand them maybe bringing his consciousness back and putting it into a different body, into an empty innie or something like that. But if he comes back, yeah, how is he going to come back in that same body? Unless they do full on go down like the cloning route, which I guess is a possibility. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what is if they do bring back Kier? What is that going to look like? In what capacity are they going to bring him back? Are they going to need a vessel to put him in, or is it going to be like a full-on resurrection, restoration, Frankenstein style? I guess I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the Kier resurrection theories have always been interesting, and I know they've been very popular. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you'd have to think that it wouldn't be just this old Kier that they're bringing back, his old, the oldest version of him, which that actor that got hired to voice Kier is very much this older version of him that we see in the top corner of our screen here, this little old dude Kier, the wax statue Kier, pretty much. The wax statue was modeled after this guy, after this actor. And yeah, I mean, what is Kier going to look like if they do bring him back? Although, when we look in the intro sequence, we see the baby crawling in front of Mark's bed at the very end of the intro sequence, and it's a baby, but it's got the same head as the wax statue. The beard, the white hair, the gray hair, everything. It's literally a baby with the old Kier head on it. That's what it's depicted as in the intro sequence. So is that a sign of something more, that maybe it will look a little more like this dude, or a weird younger version of him? I don't know, but that baby looks super fucking creepy with this just old man head on it and this baby body crawling by Mark. Like, fuck me, that'd scare the fuck out of me. Nightmare fuel.
Yeah. Is Severance season 3 gonna go full on boss baby? Because Quan Soler is totally correct. Imagine baby Kier talking to you like that. A baby just running the entire company. Maybe we're gonna go full on baby boss.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, are we gonna go full on little man? Maybe. Shit. We could go full on Kier baby boss in season 3. Keanu Reeves is going to be Kier. That I would love to see, Xavier. I mean, any chance you get anytime you get a chance to see Keanu Reeves in anything, I am there. He's one of my all-time favorites for sure, and he's one of the coolest guys around. Yeah, Keanu's awesome. I had a chance to meet Keanu once, and he really is as nice as advertised. He's the nicest, most down-to-earth guy you'll ever fucking meet in the world. Super cool. I cannot wait to see Ballerina, too. Ballerina is going to be coming out pretty soon, which is the John Wick spinoff, and he's got a cameo role in that movie as well. So I'm definitely going to be checking out Ballerina when that drops. But yeah, I would love to see Keanu come back and play some kind of role at some point. We know he did the voice of the building in the orientation video in season 2. So yeah, I would love to see Keanu come back in some kind of capacity and play some kind of role on Severance. And one thing I did see was an interesting fan casting that many fans were talking about in terms of Luke Wilson playing the younger version of Kier. And when you look at that painting, there's a specific painting of Kier, a younger version of Kier. I totally see where people are coming from when they suggest Owen Wilson playing the younger version of Kier, because he looks exactly like that when he has short hair. Like, there's a very particular painting of Kier when he's looking much, much younger. The same painting that we see in the finale when James Eagan steps into that weird freaking room, the weird room with just the one console in it. We see a picture, a painting of a younger version of Kier. And ever since that has arrived, many people have wanted Owen Wilson to play that version of Kier, the younger version of Kier. And I could definitely see it. I mean, again, when you look at the painting, I'll have to find it. I think it's in a different folder. But when you look at the painting, it definitely looks a whole lot like him. Like, I could totally see it. There it is, this guy. And when you see this a little bit clearer, it does kind of have this Owen Wilson vibe. So I could totally see him playing a younger version of Kier. And him and Ben Stiller are super good friends. So if anybody can get him to play a role like that, it would definitely be Ben Stiller. But yeah, I don't know. Keanu Reeves is also, can never go against Keanu. He's always a good pick.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. I think that this Sevi Saturday has turned into tinfoil Sevi Saturday because the Sevis are demanding and throwing out ideas. We're brainstorming. Maybe it's going to be full on zombies. Season 3, zombies here. Which would be great if we're going to full on go zombie and like suits and ties.
Mm-hmm.
I would like that, yeah.
I mean, At this point, wherever this show goes wouldn't really surprise me. I feel like this show is capable of throwing literally anything at us. We could literally get a zombie apocalypse in season 3, and I wouldn't be that surprised. Like, that is Severance in a nutshell. You never where this freaking weird, trippy show is going to go. You never know. Yeah, maybe. But yeah, and the snow falling off the baby's head. Yeah, it did look like snow. Like at first, I almost thought it was ash. But yeah, I think it is snow on second glance in that intro sequence. So I think you're right. We see that creepy looking baby Kier just crawling in front of Mark's bed, and him just kind of sitting there looking at it, all very weirded out. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, if I make Keanu Reeves, I'd be calling him Neo. Yeah, he's super cool. Super cool. Yes, zombie Stewies. Perfect. I mean, shit. Cobel returns to the Severance floor with Sissy as her security. Zombie. Good stuff. The new painting outside the elevator was from Optics and Design, Paint by Numbers. Yeah, and that was a pretty interesting painting, wasn't it? And they really go fully zoom in on it in the behind the scenes feature, and you really get a much closer look at it. But yeah, here is the new painting. It seems like they replaced the painting of Kier's Mercy, the Kier's Mercy painting when he's pardoning the 4 MDR rioters. And now they have replaced it with this, a Mark reaching Cold Harbor, the Paint by Numbers, as you mentioned. And it's got everybody in it. Everybody is in this. Literally almost every character we've seen on Severance is in this photo, from all of the Eagans up here, looking very strangely like the Shadow Twins that we saw at Lowe's Hollow in episode 4, standing in the same spot. It's very shadowy. But we look around, we see everybody is depicted here in this painting. We got Mark doing his thing. You got Dylan. You got Helly. You got Irving. You got even Devin and Rickon are there. You got Optics and Design right there. You got Burr and Felicia. You got Cobel here. It's everybody is here. Even the replacement workers that we met at the beginning of season 2, the Italian guy, the other Mark, her, even they're in this fucking painting. They grabbed everybody, even down to the goat people. The shadow people are there as well. Here we see the 4 shadow twins. The goat people, we see the representation of all the different tempers. The other goat person, Mr. Granger, little mini milkshake. We got Natalie here. Of course, Gwendolyn Christie, Brienne of Goats, as we call her. Every single Severance character is represented here in this painting. It's super interesting.
Yeah, and I do see that the Sevies are saying that way that Mark is raising his hand does look cultish and does look like Baphomet or like a sort of satanic painting. There is a very famous satanic painting that depicts the devil like this as he's sitting down and he's surrounded. Now that we have seen Gwendolyn Christie, the goat manager, in that full-on black outfit that looked very cultish, I think that could definitely be it. We cannot ignore goat sacrifice and the fact that her outfit was severely different from the corporate America outfit that she was wearing when we last saw her.
Yeah, very different. Yeah, shit, maybe. Yeah. I mean, and you guys are right. I do 100% agree. It is super kind of cult-like, isn't it? Him just kind of standing there, his eyes closed, his hand up like that. It does kind of give you that cult-like vibe, that religious cult-like kind of vibe. Like this is some grand, holy moment that is being depicted. It almost gives you those kind of Last Supper vibes. Like this is the Lumen version of the Last Supper right here. Just one giant last Lumen Supper. With Mark depicted as the Messiah Jesus figure in the middle. Yeah, definitely has that vibe, for sure. What a crazy episode! What a crazy episode. Oh my God, the twins from episode 4. Yes, even the twins, even the creepy shadow twins are back there in the distance. Here you got Marks, you got Irvings, you got Dylans, and you got Hellies. Even the creepy shadow twins are there. The representation of the Tempers are there. Literally everybody we've ever seen on the show is depicted right in this painting, from the smallest characters to the replacements, even the Italian dude. And yeah, it's just they got everybody. They did not.
And my favorite, the man here with the sticks, the goat man with the goat outfit and the 2 sticks right there.
Yeah, the goat
They
dude.
even got him. Yes.
Yeah.
They even got him.
They even got the goat dude and the other goat dude, the goat dude that they first meet in season 1, the one that's holding the goat, saying, "No, she's not ready yet. She's not ready yet." Even he's in here. Even fucking he's in there.
Yeah.
Right
And
there.
I can see the dancers, the waffle party
The
dancers right behind.
dancers. Yes, exactly. The 4 Tempers right there, all represented. They got everybody. Anybody who's ever been in a scene of Severance is depicted in here. All of them. I mean, this is an awesome painting. I'd hang this painting up in my office here if I could. I'd make that my background. Fuck. And here we see all of the Eagans, all of the different Eagans that have been CEOs over the generations, from James and Helly and Kier himself to all the way down the line, all of the other ones. We got Beard Eagan here as well, Myrtle Eagan, all kinds of Eagans. Yeah, interesting painting. Very interesting painting.
And
Good
why is Elena in the middle as the Sevies? Well, because she's going to be the next CEO.
She's going to be the next CEO. That's kind of what I thought as well. That's why maybe they threw Helena in the middle. But James Buckley brings up a good point. No Hampton in the painting. Oh my God. No
Are you sure,
Hampton.
Jeremy? Did you zoom in?
No, I'm not 100% sure. That's a good point. There's some people here that I'm not 100% sure of. Could one of these be Hampton? Maybe. I don't know. These are the
maybe
only
one
ones.
of those is Hampton and Sissy.
Yeah, maybe one of these are Hampton and Sissy. That could be a possibility. These are the only ones that are kind of unaccounted for, that we can't really make out. And they don't have a closer zoomed up version of them yet. So yeah, that's the only thing we're not 100% sure if Hampton and Sissy are depicted in the painting. If this is them, then yeah, that's them. If not, then yeah, maybe they're not in it. Maybe they're not in it. Yeah, okay. Yeah, could they be Rickon's friends even? Maybe. Yeah, Rick. Yeah, definitely could be some of Rickon's friends, some of his cult-like friends. We know that. Rickon's friend that kind of steps right through Mark when he finds the baby and grabs the baby for himself. That's got to be this guy, the bald head. Absolutely, that's got to be him. So yeah, I think these are some of Rickon's friends. So yeah, maybe Hampton isn't here. That's disappointing if he's not.
That's not right. He was one of the best new characters that we were introduced to. I'm a huge fan of Hampton. He just captivated me with that one line. Iconic.
Come tame these Tempers, assholes. Love it. Love it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. No Sissy and no Hampton in the painting. That is a little disappointing. It's a little no Ragabi. No Ragabi either. Yeah, we don't see Ragabi anywhere, do we? I don't see her anywhere. No. Again, it's hard to make out these last few people here, but again, these could just all be Rickon's other friends. This is the Italian dude. These are the other MDR workers. These are the optics and design workers. These 3 are all optics and design. So it just leaves these 4 back here, which again, I think them being Rickon's friends is probably most accurate. This is the one that Mark shared the book with. This is the one that stole the baby and said, "I found her. I've saved her. I saved her." I don't know who the other 2 are though. There might not be any Sissy and there might not be any Hampton in the painting, guys. And it's a travesty. That's a travesty. Man, that's a travesty. How can you not put Hampton in this painting? Hampton was so iconic. Yeah, you see the Italian guy back there. I'm super glad that they included the Italian guy. I'm glad they did not forget him at least. It's his severed floor that I want to see the most. I want to see the Italian guy's severed floor because we hear from him that they don't even have an elevator. He needs to use a rope, climb a rope just to get to his severed floor. His perpetuity wing doesn't have statues. They just have broom handles with plates freaking stuck on them. Like, I want to see this dude's severed floor. Where's this guy coming from? What's the Italian severed floor looking like? That's what I want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
That's right. Also, the Big Heck makes a compelling argument. Maybe Hampton is not there because this is from Lumen's point of view, and Lumen was not privy to that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, did Lumen miss that episode? Maybe. Yeah, maybe. I guess that would explain why both Hampton and Sissy are the only two that are omitted from it. If they never anticipated them entering into Mark's story, which of course was something they never anticipated. So no, that could potentially be an explanation. Definitely, for sure. Yeah. Awesome stuff. But yeah, it's a great painting nonetheless, although part of me wants to download it and Photoshop a version of Hampton, like just standing in the waterfall in the background, like all triumphant. And we'll have our Hampton. Sissy can be falling from the waterfall at the same time. And yes, Petey. No, Petey. Oh, no, I think we do have Petey. Is this Petey? Hold on. I don't know. That Petey might not be there. I thought this might be Petey.
Mm-hmm. I thought so too.
I think this is Petey here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's Petey.
Yeah, we got Petey.
He has the gray. Yeah.
Yeah. That one's Petey there. But yeah, the other two, they're gone. They are not there. They are not there. Man. Crazy. But such a good season overall. I did really enjoy season 2 for the most part. I had a lot of fun watching it. Again, the finale gave me some of the best Severance moments I've ever seen, even though there were some parts of the finale that I probably thought could have been handled a little bit differently, maybe a little bit better. Overall, I did still very much enjoy it. It was a good finale. I mean, was it as satisfying as it could have been? For me, no. I think it could have been a little more satisfying, depending if they tweaked a few things or if maybe some things were just a little different. Again, the Cold Harbor revelation I guess it wasn't as profound as I was expecting it to be because they had built it up to be this massive, massive thing. And then when it gets revealed, it kind of ends up being pretty similar to a lot of our theories that we have been talking about all season. You guys in the chat as well had all those very same similar theories as well. So it wasn't like a huge shock when we found out what Cold Harbor was because a lot of people had kind of already guessed what it could potentially be. So I think that's one of the kind of not unsatisfying feelings, but feeling like I could have been more satisfying. I don't feel unsatisfied, but I know I could have been more satisfied, I guess is where I am at with the finale. But overall, still loved it. I gave it an 8.5 on our initial breakdown review. An 8.5 right after we got done watching it for the first time. That was my score. So before we close it out, we got to ask each and every one of you again, have you changed your scores? What is your score for the season finale of Severance? With 1 being horrible and 10 being perfect, where do you guys rate this episode of Severance from 1 to 10? And for me, I'm going to give it a solid 8. I gave it an 8.5 in my initial. I think I'm going to drop to a solid 8.0, which is still a pretty good score. But there were some things that I thought could have been a little bit different. But I still really much enjoyed it overall. So I can't give it anything lower than an 8. So solid 8 for me for the Severance finale. What about you, PM? Where's your score at? Staying the same, or have you gone up? Have you gone down? What do you think?
I'm going to go with what the chat says. The Civics Know All 8.5 is about the average that I'm seeing in the chat. And I think that that's accurate. I wasn't super satisfied with it. I mean, we were talking about in the pre-show how excited we were for the finale.
Yeah.
How we just felt like we couldn't wait, right? A lot of people said like they were just like sick with anticipation. Was it
Yes.
amazing? Some parts were.
Yeah.
Was it something that, I don't know, I feel like was enough for the way that we felt about it? No, no.
Mhm.
But maybe we're just insane. Maybe we're just like super excited about it. And it is good. And people are making a compelling argument. Maybe we have to watch it a second time, and maybe it is better on the second time.
A second or a third time, even maybe. Yeah. And in terms of us having those high expectations and being so hyped, if nothing else, I feel like that is very indicative of like the very high bar that Severance has set for itself. Like this show has really set such a high bar for every single episode, considering how good this show has been in the past. Yeah, I mean, it's great to have a show that is received like that, but that also must put some pressure on them to continue to produce that same kind of quality. So, when you have the bar set so high, like it is for Severance, sometimes it's tough to always meet that bar every single episode. So yeah, I mean, again, I love the season. I thought it was a great season. I definitely am still giving it a solid 8 out of 10. I think 8's still a pretty solid score. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Again, some things could have been a little bit different, handled a little bit differently. There's always some things you can critique and nitpick on, which is totally fine. That's what fans do. We like talking about these things. But yeah, for me, solid 8 out of 10. And I enjoyed Severance season 2 overall as a whole. I did enjoy it. I did
Yeah,
enjoy
it's
it.
a masterpiece. Like Severance, we love Severance. We're going to continue talking about Severance. It
Yeah.
genuinely is a masterpiece. And while we look at individual episodes and rate the individual episodes, I mean, as a whole, like you stated, it's a 10. Like, this is the best show right now. And maybe the best show that we've had in a long time.
It is. It is like when I look at, I mean, there are shows that I watch that I enjoy a little bit more than like Severance. Like From will always be super near and dear to me. I know From isn't everybody's favorite show, but I always have so much fun watching From. I have fun watching Severance too. But when I look at just in terms of the quality of the show, like the storytelling, the cinematography, the writing, the directing, the acting, Severance is definitely one of the best shows I've seen in very, very, very long time. It's Severance and Shōgun season 1. Anyone who has not seen Shōgun season 1, definitely get out there and check out the first season of Shōgun. It is so well produced, so well choreographed. The cinematography, the directing, the acting, everything about Shōgun is near perfect. It is that good. So for me, Shōgun and Severance are definitely the two best shows I've seen in at least the last 5 years or so. Like they're top of their game for sure, without a doubt. Just phenomenal. Phenomenal. As an episode, a 9, and as a finale, a 7.5, says James Buckley. Now, and that's an interesting way to score it. And yeah, if this wasn't a finale, yeah, this would have definitely been a 9 or a 9.5 even for me. But as a finale, sometimes I guess I just expect a little bit different, a little bit more sometimes. But no, I can see your reasoning there, where as a regular episode, it would have scored a little higher than a finale episode that has even more pressure on it to deliver. Can definitely see that. Yeah, 8 is still really good. Yeah, 8's still really good. Absolutely, for sure. An 8.5 from Peach. We got a 10 from Petty Gibbs. We got an 8.5, an 8 out of 10 from Megan. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, average is around 8 or 9 in the chat. Seems like most people are going 8s, 9s, a few 10s, which is good. We got Christine Jellybean giving it a 9. We got a 7.5. It would have been a 10 if Mark left with Gemma. Ooh, interesting, Michael. And that's always an interesting idea, you know, and we did touch a little bit on that last night in terms of asking you guys. And I guess that'll be the last thing we ask before we close it out. What would you guys have done if you were Mark in that end scene, or not what you would have done? What did you want Mark to do? Did you want to see Mark leave with Gemma, or did you want to see Mark leave with Helly? Which way did you want to see? Which couple do you guys like better? For me, I had a real struggle on this question all season, especially after seeing episode 8, not episode 8, after seeing Gemma's episode, her flashback episode. After seeing that, it became really tough in terms of which couple I am rooting for more. I'm definitely rooting for both of them, but you know, we're only human. There's always going to be one that we like a little bit more than the other, usually. But after that episode, it was so tough for me to decide which couple do I like a little bit better, Mark and Helly or Mark and Gemma. And I have to give the edge to Mark and Helly. I don't know why. Something about the innies, their nature, their innocent nature, they're victims in all of this, yet they still find a way. They're indentured servitude, slaves in a sense, yet they still find a way to build a life for themselves, to love, to have friends and coworkers and an actual life, even though it is only located on this severed floor. So I have so much respect for the innies and their resilience. But for me, it's Mark and Helly. I'm kind of glad he ended up choosing Helly. I think I like Mark and Helly just a smidge more than Mark and Gemma, but Mark and Gemma are great too as well. But what about you guys in the chat? Mark and Helly or Mark and Gemma? And what about you, PM? I mean, is there a couple you prefer a little bit more?
Yeah, when I think about this decision, because this is a very difficult choice, right? It's about what you promised to do, what is the right thing to do, and also what are your feelings about the situation. When I think if I was Mark, would I go with Gemma, who is somebody else's beloved that I know has suffered and I can help, or would I go with the person that I love, that I'm in love with?
Yeah.
And I would have to say that I go with the person that I'm in love with, because the immediate thought is I understand that this person has suffered and I understand that Mark wants his wife back. However, what about me? That's the question that comes to mind, and that I think any Mark had during the interaction with the camera. What about me? Your suffering is, definitely valid, but what about me? Like, don't I get to have a love of my life? And maybe, like, don't I get to decide if that's important equally as yours? So I think I would have made the same decision.
Mm-hmm.
You feel bad for other people, of course, but then ultimately, do you feel bad enough to sacrifice the love of your life to them? I don't know. I don't think so.
It's tough. Yeah, it's a really tough question. It's a tough decision to make. Like, and again, I know we've said this multiple times, but if that was Audi Mark in that hallway, like if Audi Mark was standing here and it was his choice to make, no choice whatsoever. He goes right out that door 10 times out of 10 and goes with Gemma, because that's who he has the connection with. And ultimately, I think that's why we ended up seeing any Mark go with Helly, because ultimately this is the person he loves. And he even tells Audi Mark that earlier on in the episode, where if I do this, that's who I'm going to love. That's who I love, and that's who I'm going to lose if I do this. And yeah, I mean, he hears Helly kind of call his name and turns around in the last minute, sees her. I think that sealed the deal for him. At that point, he knew he was going to choose Helly. But yeah, I mean, they're both really good. Both really good couples. You definitely want to root for both of them. They've both been through so much. Like Helly and Gemma have both been through so much. Mark too. Where you do kind of want to see them all win. You want to see a happy ending on both sides, but given the nature of this severed life, that there's two women yet only one Mark, you knew that it was always going to at some point come down to some kind of choice that they were going to have to make. And it really was going to come down to which Mark is going to make that choice, Audi Mark or any Mark. Audi Mark makes the choice, he chooses Gemma. Any Mark makes the choice, he chooses Helly. It's pretty logical. So I can definitely see why they went this way. But yeah, really good season. Really, really good season. I definitely am loving Severance so far. It's going to be interesting to see where the story goes from here now. I mean, I feel like there are so many different directions in terms of where they could potentially take season 3. A lot of different avenues. We got a lot of character arcs, still some threads that haven't been completely tied up. I know some people have been mentioning throughout the night of Irving, and we still have no idea who his Audi was speaking with on those payphone calls. So that's something that they could definitely revisit in season 3. Tons of storylines that are still yet to be told, including hopefully a freaking Milchick origin storyline. We need a Milchick origin episode, kind of like almost like the same thing we got for Cobel. I hope they do that for Milchick in season 3. Let's finally get Milchick's backstory. Let's find out where this guy comes from. Was there a similar school for boys back then or right now that they have for girls? The Merle Eagan School for Girls and the Wintertide Fellowship. Is there a male equivalent of that? And did Milchick potentially come from a program like that? Has he been indoctrinated from a very early age, just like Cobel was and just like Miss Huang was? So if I can have one wish for season 3, it's to get a proper Milchick background episode, a full episode, or at least a good few flashbacks where we really learn Milchick's background and where he came from and why he is so loyal to Lumon in the first place. But that's my hope. That is my hope for season 3.
I want to know where he got his work ethic. That's amazing work ethic. I want his work ethic. I want to show up to work no matter what is happening, no matter like what the day is gonna bring. I want to know what makes somebody that way, and how is he so precise? There's a lot of things that I admire about Mr. Milkshake, so I would definitely be interested in an episode all about him. Yes, for sure.
I would be. I would love that. I would love that. And yeah, that does worry me a little bit too, All City Big Heck. I don't know why that episode came under such heavy scrutiny. People really tried calling that episode filler, which, I mean, filler, there is a definition for filler. It is something that does not serve the plot or the story or the characters at all. It is a meaningless side quest. Filler is exactly that, filler. When you're getting character development, when you're getting world building, and you're peeling back the layers of a character and finding out why they are the way they are, where they came from, that, I don't know. For me personally, I can never consider something like that to be filler. That is character development. And stories need that. A good story needs a good character development episode every once in a while where you do get to learn a little bit more about this character, learn about what makes them tick, what kind of trauma did they go through, how did they become shaped into who they are now. So I personally loved the Cobel episode. I thought it was a really good episode. I don't mind when they deviate from the main plot if they are giving us actual real character development and world building that serves the overall story as a whole, which the Cobel episode very did. So I could never kind of characterize that episode as filler personally. I understand there were a lot of people who didn't like that episode, that it was all dedicated to Cobel, and I can definitely understand that to a certain degree. Maybe they could have woven in some scenes with the main cast on top of it, considering it was such a short episode. But I hope that's not the case, though. I hope that some of the negative feedback that they did see about the Cobel episode doesn't put them off and make them not do something like that for Milchick. Because if anybody deserves an episode like that to uncover their backstory, it's Milchick. I feel like he deserves a whole episode dedicated to him, not just 1 or 2 flashback scenes. Like, give this guy his own episode and let's find out, where did Milchick come from? Why is he so loyal to them? Where did he get his work ethic, as you mentioned? Why is he so driven? Where did he get his vocabulary from? Like, what was his upbringing? How did Milchick get formed into the Milchick that we know and see today? So hopefully the criticism they saw from that episode doesn't sway them away from doing that. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Man, good stuff. Over how many months did season 1 and 2 take place? Total calendar time of 3 months. Well, there's 10 episodes in a season. Well, there are 10 episodes in this season. So, yeah, I mean, a little over 2 months, 2.5 months or so of actual time season 2 was on for. 2.5 months around there. So, yeah. Season 3 has officially been greenlit. We did get the official word from Apple TV and from Ben Stiller themselves. Season 3 has been ordered. Hopefully they'll begin filming on that within the coming weeks and months. And hopefully, with a little bit of luck, we can maybe get Severance Season 3 by spring or summertime 2026, around there. There's no chance we're going to get it this year, so there will probably be no Severance Season 3 coming this year. That's very unlikely, but it's possible that we could get it by spring or summer 2026, depending on when they start filming, that is. But here we go, guys. Season 3 is going to be coming, and of course, we are going to continue talking all things Severance over the next few days and weeks. We got some really fun Severance streams that we're going to be planning to do here on the channel, from Severance trivia to all kinds of different stuff. Might even do a live call-in show at one point if anybody in the chat wants to maybe come on and join us for a few minutes and give us some of your thoughts and some of your feedback on how you thought Season 2 of Severance went. So maybe we'll do a call-in show at some point as well. But yeah, as long as people want to talk Severance, we will be here talking Severance every week and try to continue to unravel this mystery, this enigma that has been laid before us, and figure out just what the heck is going on this severed floor. What does Lumon really want? Where are these characters' storylines going to go next? We are definitely going to keep the Severance content and the discussion going as long as we possibly can. But I want to give a big thank you to each and every one of you for all of the support you have shown us throughout this season of Severance. You guys have been super supportive of the streams and the videos and everything we've been doing, and we are super grateful. And of course, super grateful to my awesome co-host, the one and only PM Philosophy. Thank you so much for joining me on this crazy wild ride.
Oh, thank you. I always have so much fun with you and the Sevies, the chat that knows all, right? The best chat in the world. So thank you guys.
Absolutely. Definitely big thanks that goes to the Sevies and any rewatch parties anymore. I mean, and that's actually something we can definitely consider doing as well. If people want to do a Severance rewatch, that's something we usually tend to do that for the shows that we cover on the channel. Once the season ends, we usually go back and rewatch season 1 and 2. So yeah, maybe that's something we can do as well. If that's something that people would like to do, to kind of dive back into Severance from the very beginning, especially now that we have much more information, now that we have all of this new and added context that season 2 has given us. I imagine when we go back and watch season 1, we're going to see it in a little bit of a different light, or maybe a very much of a different light. Shows like this usually tend to play out like that. I mean, we remember that's exactly how it was for us, where we watched season 2 of From and then season 3 of From, and then we went back and rewatched everything. And you start to see these earlier seasons, these earlier episodes in a totally different light once you know a little bit more as in terms of where the story is going. So yeah, maybe a Severance rewatch party can be something that we can maybe set up at some point. And if that's something you guys want to do, definitely would be down for doing that. And yeah, again, the Severance content is not going to stop. As long as people want to talk some Severance, we will be here talking some Severance. No problem. And yeah, Severance rewatch party would be awesome. Yeah, I think it could be fun. Maybe we'll think about setting that up, and we'll discuss a little bit more on our next live stream this next week. But yeah, again, big thank you to each and every one of you for all of the support. Coming up pretty soon, we are going to be probably transitioning into The Last of Us season 2. The Last of Us is another phenomenal show. If you guys have not seen The Last of Us season 1, I would definitely recommend checking out that first season, because we're most likely going to be covering all of season 2 here on the channel, in terms of me doing breakdowns for every single episode and us discussing it on live streams as well. So definitely check out The Last of Us if you haven't already. And Severance trivia happening. We're also going to do that. Yeah, we're going to do a Severance trivia stream at some point, probably next week. I'm thinking maybe we're going to do a Severance trivia stream. We had so much fun doing the From trivia stream. It was such a blast that I feel like it would be just as fun, if not even, maybe even more fun with Severance, considering some of the weird and crazy stuff that you can pull to create some very easy questions and some very hard questions when it comes to the Severance trivia. Questions that only the most die-hard fans of Severance will get right. So yes, we will definitely do a Severance trivia stream probably sometime next week on one of our days that we go live. And yeah, we'll keep this Severance party going as long as people want to talk about it. We will be here streaming about it. Awesome stuff. And yes, indeed, Kiwi. Yay, The Last of Us is great. It really is. It's such a good show. And I cannot wait to see what they do with season 2. It looks like it's going to be pretty wild, pretty epic. The season 2 trailer looks phenomenal. I actually did a breakdown on the season 2 trailer. If anybody has seen The Last of Us season 1 and you want to check out my trailer breakdown for season 2, that is up on the channel. And yeah, we'll definitely be diving into that. And who knows, there's always other really great shows that come out of nowhere sometimes. And whenever a good show comes around, if it's something that we want to dive into, we will definitely dive into that too as well. So yeah, we got plenty of awesome content to come. And of course, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms will be coming this spring or this summer, the latest. So I will definitely be putting out some more Song of Ice and Fire content as well, especially now with House of the Dragon Season 3 officially beginning their filming. So we got a lot of stuff planned for the future, a lot of different shows we're going to be covering, and I am looking forward to diving into each and every one of them with all of you. But until next time, stay safe out there, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not subscribed to PM Philosophy, definitely subscribe to her channel. The link to her channel is in the description below. And she also has some phenomenal Severance content up there as well. Definitely give her a sub. And until next time, keep those tinfoil hats on, folks, and we will see you on the next one.